Very good.
Do you want me to call roll?
Yes, please.
All right, we have Dave Hume,
Here.
Tom Tuzen,
Here.
Jack
Here.
McLaughlin, and on Zoom we have Greg Filak.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, and
Perfect.
I'm trying to find, here's Cassandra. Okay. She will not be here tonight. She will be at the 26th meeting.
Okay.
So if everybody would stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay. Brenda, can you put up the spreadsheet that I sent you?
Yes.
The one that I sent you all, I hid some tabs just so you didn't have extra garbage to look at. But this one will have all the tabs on it. Leah, while she's doing that, do you want to introduce yourself again and Liz as well?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. For those who have not yet met me, my name is Leah Popelka, and I'm the Director of Finance and Accounting. And I'm also brought on the line Elizabeth Moore, and she's the financial analyst. She's been with the firm for many years and is also an expert on all budget matters. So thank you for letting us be in attendance.
Say hi to Todd for me, Leah.
I absolutely will.
Okay, so what we've typically done in the past is we've gone line for line. If you click on the projects tab, Brenda, this is kind of what we started last year. And we started putting in any projects that I got from any of you. And we would basically, get numbers. I think between now and our next budget meeting, we'll have even more concrete numbers. Some of these are rough estimates. Some are actual numbers that we got. The only thing, I sent an email to Jan about the charrette and all of that to see, kind of fill in some numbers. Mark may be able to fill in some of those numbers as well. So that's where we are with that. So depending on where you all want to start, I can tell you what I did overall first, and then we can kind of start from there if you want. So there's the projects that were sent in. Greg, Dave, and Tom sent me stuff. Tom, I believe all of yours are on there, except for recoding of the chain link fence on Celebration Boulevard.
Yeah, that's not me.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the stuff I sent you was more maintenance related.
Yeah.
Like capital, no.
Right. So if we start on the 001 tab, Brenda. Okay, so let's start at administration. So what I did was I went through the stuff I highlighted are things, and if you see my notes off to the side over there, engineering and legal services may need to increase because obviously if we're looking at the community project, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, that's
unless you're gonna go back to revenues, but my assumption
We
is
will.
that on the revenue side, we're gonna do all of our expenses and everything, and then backfill in a number in order for it to zero out. Right? Is that how the revenues are?
No, not necessarily. So the revenue portions are things that you all get, which does play into your budget. You've always used them to play into your budget for years. So yes, they will play in unless you say you don't want it to be. The only difference is under other miscellaneous revenues, that 400,000, we typically, that was because you guys exhausted. Gary used to have a fund and it was the assessment stabilization. So over the last two years, I think, Jack, 2 or 3 years, we've zeroed that out. So that's why you don't see anything there. So revenues, I have them filled in. Essentially, I left the electricity the same, even though we're not quite there yet, projected through, it only shows, yeah. it only shows 824,000, but during the summer months, it typically picks up because everybody's electric bill increases and we get that 6%. So I left it at 955. Leah, we can have a conversation unless you would like to speak on that now, if you think we need to drop that down or keep it the same.
I would say keep it the same to be conservative, and then when we come in for the next budget phase, we can reevaluate.
Okay,
Let's say one thing.
sure.
On the interest line, one of the things that came out at the audit committee was to, Mike Jackson mentioned that we ought to get out of the CDs and go straight to T-bills.
I don't know, Leah, and help me, I don't know that it's every month, but and I don't have the timeline, but accounting does reach out and they get, interest for banks, T-bills, all of that stuff. Do you know that timeline, Leah, off the top of your head? I don't know if you do.
I believe it's on a quarterly basis, but we can certainly circle up with my treasury analyst to make a determination and really investigate resources and determine if there's a better fit from an investment perspective.
Okay, so they typically would send them out quarterly and say, hey, Angel, this is what's showing the highest interest right now. Do you want to switch? And then if it's something that's not a tied up investment, I'll say yes. If it's something that requires your funds to be tied up, I would come and get board approval for that. So we typically will go where you're going to yield the most. And that's kind of how it's always been done. So, but we'll look into that further. Leah has it on her list.
So for right of ways for telecom, we don't get anything from telecom?
No, they canceled that. When did they cancel that, Brenda? Was it 23?
It wasn't a matter of them canceling it. It was no longer allowed. They
Allowed.
do not have to pay
Cancel.
those anymore. And I think it's been within 2 years. So it might have been not this current fiscal year, but last fiscal year.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanna-
Yeah, because we did get some in 23. So it was around then that
Yeah.
they don't have to pay it. So they don't.
And you
So
still
Angel-
get a little bit of gas, from the
Angel-
gas company. Uh-huh.
Sorry, just a comment, because we kind of jumping around a little bit on the other miscellaneous revenues. I just want to make sure, a comment and a question. One, I don't think we exhausted it. We had transferred the money out because we
Oh, that's
closed
right.
down the line item of the,
Yeah, we
Well,
put
I
another thing.
Yeah, you put it,
Stabilization. Yeah.
No longer have.
it's no longer used to stabilize your assessments. Exhaust is probably the wrong word. You're correct. All we did was allocate it to other things.
okay, and perfect. That was my second question, was making sure that this will be the first year that will be fully allocated just generally into reserves or to specific line items and not into a reserve stabilization or asset stabilization.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
You guys stopped keeping your assessments flat 3 years ago. And that's what that original stabilization was for, because your budget increased every year, but you weren't raising assessments. You were using those funds to offset. So what I did okay, so that's the revenues. Any other questions about that, Dave? Okay, so if we
Sorry,
start,
can you scroll back up for a second? I'm sorry, I was kind of still chewing through it. I didn't see this until right now because I haven't had a chance to pull it open. The 14% dip in the right-of-way fees, electricity. Can you talk through that for a second? Because I mean, that's annualized out over a year. That's not just because it's seasonal. So why are we expecting a 14% drop?
it's what you've collected through March. And if it keeps going the way that it is, it's projected out for 24 that you're only going to get 824,000, which is a 14% decrease from what we budgeted of 955. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brenda, you probably know more about this than me, but we do see a higher amount come in over the summer months
Right.
because people are utilizing
Correct.
their air more and all of these things. So that's where I put it the note off to the side up there that you'll most likely see this increase over the summer months and will probably end up reaching that 955 or more. So I don't think you're in any jeopardy of losing the 14%, but that's what it shows. If we are to keep collecting as we currently are,
Okay.
that's why you'd come in 14% lower, but I expect it to pick up over the next few months during the summer.
The one thing I would ask you to do, if you can take a look, I have thought I've heard that rates are dropping and normalizing out a little bit from what they were spiking last year just because of fuel costs. If those rates
Mhm.
drop, obviously our revenues are going to drop as well. If you can take a look, and if that means calling Duke or whatever, just to see, as best they can tell last year's price per kilowatt hour or however they sell it, just to see if the, electricity volume roughly stays the same, would a rate change materially impact our revenues?
Yeah, but we're also getting more units as Allen Village goes forward, so that can be offset
No,
by the increase.
understand, and that's what I'm just trying to figure out. I've got two things flowing in different directions. I'm trying to figure out, does that really mean we're about on target, or does one outweigh the other? That there's some significant potential variables going in two different directions.
Yes, and I did have a conversation with Duke, so I could look at everybody's electricity, and they are looking still at about a 6% increase in the coming year. She didn't know when that would start, but that's what they're anticipating. And we're already seeing the increase when you get further down of electricity, that it's kind of trending upwards instead of kind of what we budgeted, based off of last year's increase. But I will give them a call, Greg, and look into that and see where we fall.
And Dave, based on your discussions with Mattamy, since you're our liaison over there, I'm not sure what the latest was you've heard. What are you expecting as far as units becoming sold and active within FY25? Is that going to be a significant number in phase two? Or what do you expect?
Actually, that's a good point, because they're gonna be in the lull as they put in the infrastructure and build the house. I'm assuming we're not gonna, we'll get probably some temporary power. I'm assuming we get that too. Because when a builder starts, they put a temporary power account in. So whether.
Then
it's
it gets
temporary-
transferred to us once we take ownership.
Yeah, I mean, but even for an individual house.
Yeah,
So as a
agreed.
builder,
Mhm.
It starts, so, yeah, with that,
But I
Those-
assume the builders numbers are going to be kind of in the noise. I mean, it's really going to be when the houses actually start selling and getting occupied by residents will be when we expect to
yeah,
see
once they pull a building permit, they're gonna wanna get temp power on there as soon as possible.
Yeah, as best you can guesstimate what that looks like over FY25, if you can feed that back to Angel just to see if what the number up would look like.
I will ask.
Okay. Anything else on revenues?
Would that also, because Island Village is getting gas feeds, does that they're getting residential gas lines? Does that at all impact our right of ways here, or is that just for the main lines that are going along the highway?
I thought that was for the main lines, but I mean, I can check into that and see if Island Village affects that.
I mean, because if they're building a lot more lateral residential lines that are going through our easements, I would expect we'd be getting more right of way opportunities and payments.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Dave, same question for you. I mean, are they planning on taking gas out to every house in phase two? Isn't that where they're at in phase one?
Yeah, every house gets gas and electricity.
Well, and making sure that however we're getting plugged in, I don't know legally how that works. Do we have to go ask for those right of way fees, or are they just automatically coming to us? I don't know how that process happens.
There's no asking. To my knowledge, correct, Brenda? Because there's a contract in place or an agreement.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've never asked. It's a standing utilization agreement that they send us 6% of their gross receipts, so they need to collect it. Yep.
I'm
So
just
we
thinking
can-
because they're
can talk to
because they're
Mattamy.
expanding the
I'll check
infrastructure
with
is my
Kat.
question. If someone feeding a main line that's going past us on the highway is one thing, actually taking gas into the residential areas, I don't know if that's a separate agreement, because that's out now actual local use in the town.
We have a utilization agreement with, for gas also.
Okay,
Same thing, gas and electric, basically same agreement. Yep.
okay.
So we'll see what Island Village, how it affects everything. All right, so administration. Again, your board supervisors, still did 10-2. It's roughly $1,000 a meeting, but we do have, Greg, you don't take compensation still, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I
So
think
that's
for-
why you see it, huh?
I mean, I think for purposes of a budget, it'd be prudent to plan on all 5 supervisors taking, especially since 3 of us are up for reelection. We have no idea who's gonna take what. It's probably prudent just to budget on all 5.
Okay. Brenda, you want to change that 10 to?
Do we have 13 meetings? Well, we have
Um,
meetings and workshops.
Yeah, so let's do
15?
15. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
that
just put a
works-
note on the side, put a
Uh-huh.
note on the side, all 5 supervisors for future.
Okay.
Okay. So going down and then you've got your FICA taxes, which is fed off of that Board of Supervisor number. Your arbitrage rebates, 1,200. Dissemination agent, again, that doesn't change. Engineering and legal, I highlighted and put notes, again, based off of the projects that we're gonna have going on next year. You may want to increase those 2 line items. Right now, currently through March, you can see engineering's already over and legal is pretty close. And that's only through March 31st.
So thought here, guys, is I know, Angel, you've started capturing costs separately for Mark and Jan and other staff where there's a per hour cost for anything related to potentially what might go into a bond project for the community center, whatever the scope of that is. Should we be accounting for that on separate line items where this would stay the professional services, engineering and legal for kind of all the day-to-day stuff, but creating a separate line item and a separate bucket for anything that may potentially be bondable?
So what I was gonna ask, is exactly what we did for incorporation study / legal. Remember, we did incorporation study and then outside counsel down there,
Yeah.
which I left that in there and we'll talk about that line, but I would recommend if you're gonna be exhausting funds on a community project that we do separate it out. It'd be
I think so.
easier to track.
I agree.
And I'm putting together a summary now, which I'm gonna present at your next week's meeting of kind of everything that we've done so far, whether it be a phone call with so-and-so or a meeting here or a meeting there, and any funds that have been associated with that. So everyone will have an idea of kind of where we are and how much has been exhausted on that. I think I reached out to Mark about his, Jan to hers, Dave's done some stuff. I reached out to him, Greg as well. So anyone who's done anything on that project will be part of that summary. So we can definitely start doing that. And again, when we start, and this may need to be our next budget meeting, when we have better numbers for the master plan project where we can budget a number in there.
I agree, because otherwise, I think right now we can't even address that without some breakdown.
Right. So,
But these might be the actual correct numbers to be using on a regular budget for that line item.
correct. Very well could be. Because there is some engineering and some
Sure.
legal that are tied into that were associated with the project.
Direct engineering, legal to break those out.
Correct. Yep. So,
My question
Uh-huh.
then would be, and not to get too granular, just discussion for everybody. So if we were gonna have, I know Mark has said there are some things he would do in-house for engineering. There would be other engineering architect things which are not within his bailiwick or his companies where we'd have to go to a separate firm. Same thing for legal. Hey, we've got Jan as regular counsel. We'd have to have bond counsel and some others. Do we need to
Yep.
break apart? Should we be breaking apart separate line items by each of those individual functions as well, or keep it all engineering and roll up all the engineers into there?
I think anything that Mark and Jan do for the district, it's under their regular professional engineering. And then anything that they do for the master plan or a bond counsel does or anything, it goes under legal. Anything else would be engineering. And then we're also gonna have just a master project line item outside of
Okay.
legal and
Sorry, let me ask my question again, because yes, I agree with you that Jan and Mark's regular time for regular district business should be in the line items we've had. That we will have multiple attorneys, as an
Yeah.
example, for the
Correct.
master plan stuff? Should we have multiple line items for the master plan? Hey, master plan for Jan, master plan for bond council.
No.
Okay.
Because I think you're gonna have it go very much, but I do believe, Greg, you need a separate master plan overall that would include like Dick's Height, anything
Yep.
else that you incorporate for that. I think when you start having a master plan legal, master plan bond council, I mean, we could have 15,000 line items. Because there's gonna be a lot of moving parts. So I think I think legal and engineering is great to break out, but I think the rest should be under one heading of master plan project unless you have other headings you want.
Well, you can see in the report the breakdown after that if you wanted to.
Oh,
but that's
yeah.
just the one.
They'll break it out, but if you want to put other ones, we absolutely can do that, but it wouldn't be my recommendation.
Gary's got a suggestion, yes.
Okay, hold on.
Workshop so we can elicit responses from the audience.
Yeah.
Time.
If you're considering breaking out line items for those specific categories,
Mhm.
I highly recommend that you also do that for next year's audit. So we have a record both in the budget and the audit of those breakouts.
Okay, for the audit, or you want the audit to reflect?
Yes.
The audit will reflect what we put here.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I didn't know if you meant like break out a line for the audit
No,
committee,
No,
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 but
no.
you want it reflected in the audit.
I'd
Yep.
like the audit to reflect those categories,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't mix all the money together and can't figure out what's what.
So do you want a line that just says, or do you want more categories? Or just adding another one that says, master plan?
I think just a one line, you could summarize it on the one line, then you break it out on another tab if
Well-
you had to.
I mean, we're gonna have master plan expenses from legal, we're gonna have master plan expenses from engineering, we're gonna have environmental master plan.
Yep.
We're gonna have master plan expenses, we're gonna have project management.
I agree, but what I'm saying is just put another tab over there with all those categories, summarize it and put a one line entry into here. The budget.
I love consolidation because then you get a one-stop shop.
Yeah, and on the invoices, I mean, we can track that. It's gonna be broken out. We can always track it. I can keep a running, spreadsheet on breaking out the expenses, but I think on your budget for that purpose, I would just do a one more line that says master plan.
So.
So we could do like you have for Exhibit A, shows your projects here. We could do the same, call it Exhibit B for master planning, and then just have
Yeah.
one administrative line item.
There you go.
Or you
I'm
can just
gonna
call it plan.
Leave legal and
And
leave
engineering?
and engineering, but then just add one more that says master plan.
Okay.
Dave, to where you were going, I think my comment would be, let's keep rolling on this sheet. What we really need to get to is the first sheet that Angel started with, where she was breaking apart. I had sent in 6 line items of potential types of costs we were going to incur in FY 25 if we continue to move forward with this. I think we need to get a good sight picture on realistically what are we going to see in the next 18 months, and then that'll drive how we summarize the stuff in the top sheet. Whether we do it in a different tab or whatever.
That's
We
it.
break out those items that are bonded, for lack of a better term, which will
Yep.
include. it in
Correct.
costs.
Yep. And Jan and I already know that we want to break out the stuff that's going to be bondable versus what's not. So, all right, so you got a master planning main category, and then we still left engineering and legal.
Yep.
All right, so again, all of those are basically, none of them went up. And then when you get to incorporation study, I don't know what's left. He's still answering questions on his original report. We haven't gotten it yet. Outside counsel is still weighing in. So I would think we're not gonna need this next year, but maybe some counsel. You might need outside counsel for it in the next fiscal year, but I reached out to Jan. She's gonna get an answer, so that's why I left the 20,000 in there, just as a placeholder.
Angel, he was on a not to exceed 40,000 for the entire thing. It was incremental payments, but at the end of the day, there's no reason he should be exceeding the 40,000. So how much of that 40,000 have we paid out over the past 2 years?
Well, you don't see the 40,000 on here because we did 20,000 for him, and then we did, I think, 20,000 for council, correct, Brenda?
I thought one of them was 40,000 and one
Yeah.
was 20,000. Let me
No,
look at
Okay,
previous
The
budget.
incorporation consultant was 40, the attorney, the incorporation attorney was a pay as you drink, so that was kind of a plug $15,000 or $20,000 number, but the 40,000 from the consultant, I mean, if there's any balance that we haven't paid, then it should just be that balance rolling over as, hey, we had an overage in
No,
24 that
no.
we just didn't spend, it's gonna now be a budget in 25.
the question isn't about this 20,000, Greg, because we've only paid him $7,000 to date. That's it. And outside counsel hasn't billed us anything because she's working under Jan's right now until she submits that bill. What my question is, I don't necessarily know that we're gonna need to budget money next year. Obviously, the incorporation side for sure. I just don't know about the legal side of it. So that's it. But yeah, there's no jeopardy of him going over that or even close to it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if we budgeted that in prior years and we assessed and pulled in that 40 grand, then it would
Yep.
just be like any other project that we didn't, when Russ doesn't finish a capital project in 1 year and it just rolls over to the next year, it should be the same type of accounting.
Well, you still don't want it listed under incorporation study. We want to zero that out and put that money somewhere else in another line. So that's why we need to figure out what we need, if we're still going to need outside counsel or not, and either leave that money in the line item because we're going to need it. If not, zero it out and put it in another line. Because you're correct. It's already been assessed for. It's already baked into your budget.
And accounting wise, we're budgeting for when things accrue, not necessarily when we get billed.
That's correct. It's on
So
accrual.
he's accrued all of his work till now, and maybe he parts around and doesn't bill us until, January.
Yeah.
But still, it would be with this budget, not much.
That's right. That is correct. So that's where we are with that. And as soon as I get a definitive answer from Jan, we'll either be able to zero that line out, move that money to another line or a project or what have you.
I mean, without going down the rabbit hole of an incorporation discussion, Reader's Digest version, do we think we're going to be able to close that out this fiscal year based on the pace we're at, or is this going to bleed over into October
No.
and beyond?
Yeah, no, it should be closed out in the next few months. I mean, outside counsel and Jan are really on top of him to get this done.
So if that's the case,
Couldn't need anything.
good, zero.
But I don't know about legal outside counsel. If this is gonna go any further
Oh.
into next year, if
Oh,
they
I
have
see
to,
what- I see what
yeah,
you're saying, yeah.
that's all. Incorporation, those funds, we're not gonna need them. This will be done, but outside counsel, we may need funds in there. So that's what I want to get from
Okay,
Jan.
I get it,
Okay,
they're waiting on it.
yeah. Your insurance went up. But that number also includes everything. If you look to my note off to the right, it includes general liability, property, officers. It includes all of it. So that's why that number is there, but it did go up.
It's not like my auto insurance,
Right?
it's my homeowner's insurance.
Yeah. Printing and binding, we don't need that much money in there. I know.
Can't that just be within the just like an office supply type thing? I mean, cause.
It really
it used to be
is.
Before, when you would have to print.
We don't
all
do
the
that
agendas.
anymore.
We don't do it
Yeah.
anymore. So I'm just, we need that.
No, I mean, they're putting any printing charges that are there that come through, the
Put
printer
this
and
in
stuff.
office supplies.
Yeah, I would
That's
just
it.
say, put it there,
I'll change
which
this.
even. No, office supplies,
Well, I mean.
I'm
if you
sorry,
really-
computer supplies. Office supplies and printing, can I rename that?
No. You got the wrong one.
It says
It's-
office supplies.
I know that, but we're not talking about office supplies, we're talking about printing and binding.
yeah,
Right, I was gonna combine them.
Uh-oh.
I
Isn't that
would
what you were just
suggest,
saying?
Well, now
I
she's
would
still on my
suggest
screen,
combining-
that's weird.
She's not on my screen.
Oh,
you're
there
back,
she
you're
is.
back. Sorry, Brenda. The screen blanked and we thought you just said, I've had it with people.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
But
I
Um,
would suggest combining 3 line items, combine line 51, 55, and 56. Printing and binding, office supplies, and computer supplies. Do we really need 3 separate
Okay.
line items, or can we just do one?
Yeah, I agree, because it's,
You can make that 6,800.
Okay. So I'm gonna put it all up here. I'm gonna take out binding, printing.
Printing, office, and computer.
There
Okay,
you go.
6,800.
And we can move that later,
yeah.
but for now, and then zero out the 3,000 office
And
supplies.
these two are gonna be 0.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Right, combine.
Okay.
I can't spell, sorry about that.
It's after 5,
What'd you say?
after 5 o'clock, so that's fine. I
Okay,
understand.
I know, right?
And then when you go down to software maintenance, that's the My Celebration app, 17,000. My note off to the side is we will be billing other entities quarterly to
So we need,
recoup. Oh.
so we need to capture revenues from them in our revenue section.
Yeah, Leah, are you still on?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
I'm
If-
on, yes.
So for the 17,000, wait, Brenda, don't put anything in revenue yet. So for the 17,000 we have other entities that are going to be paying a portion of that. We hold the contract, we'll be paying the bill, but we will be getting funds from other entities to help pay for their portion. Do we need to capture that in revenues, or where do we need to capture that? I want to make sure we're doing it right.
Or is that a net?
Absolutely. I would reflect that as another revenue source to defray
Like we
costs.
like we do these.
Just like we
So
do with
other-
enterprise. Yeah, exactly. Interlocal agreement.
So change other miscellaneous revenues to GoGov revenue. And I have to look at the contract now that Crow has signed on and see how much each entity pays, and then I can fill in that.
Give it to them for free for.
Oh, we did give it to them for free for the
That's right,
first.
first 3 years or whatever.
Yeah,
So, but that's Croa,
right.
not
Others.
others.
We got Crow and Enterprise and Angel. We need to talk about Kanoa. Because Kanoa is still on the map that people can submit tickets. So we need to either take their area physically out of different discussion, but for purposes of the budget here, we need to either get them on board and get them paying, or take them off the app and make sure people cannot submit tickets in Kanoa areas, which I think would be.
Okay, hold on.
Cause I don't think, now we do
I-
have, Greg, just so you know, we do have a meeting. On Friday. With both folks from Croa.
Kanoa's not on here.
GoGo, okay, so Canoa's not on.
There is no agreement with Kanoa now.
Yeah,
But
so they're on the-
They're not on the app either.
but their land, if you go and try to go into Kanoa properties on the map, you can absolutely tag things on the map.
Okay, I see what,
Okay.
yeah, I see what he's saying.
Like Front Street and
Correct.
Okay, so we need to adjust the map, the boundary?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we either need to adjust the map and the boundary and take all Kanoa properties out of the app. Or I would prefer, if you want to have the discussion with Kanoa, can we get them on board? They were kind of contingent on Crow back and forth in that several months
Well,
ago.
Lauren's gonna be at the meeting on Friday, so I think that'd be a good. She better be.
okay, we'll take care of that. But I'll look in all the agreements and we'll fill in that app revenue right there where Leah said to put it in. So we'll do that with whoever's paying and what their portion is. Okay, down. All right, contract security camera, that is going to, you guys have not approved that contract yet, but it's essentially the same service that we were getting before with a different company, and they have agreed, to my knowledge, Greg, I believe it's still the same price of 24,800.
Yeah, the price is the same. We'll have to have a discussion in our next meeting.
Yeah.
There's some indemnity language that Jan and I agreed needs
Right.
to come back before the board, just so people understand risk, but the dollar should stay the same if we reapprove it.
Okay, the 200,000 for sheriff security, if you look my note off to the right, that was for sheriff detail and also some additional cameras that we were talking about purchasing and putting wherever. So
Yeah,
that's,
so what I would suggest is let's leave this number alone for right now. Part of our meeting next week is going to, the shade meeting will be discussing those cameras. It'll take us a little while to figure out what the cost is for what it is we want to do. So I know we do have some money socked away in this current budget. I think we had about 50 or 60,000 we had put in as a plug as the total roll-up number. That we may need additional, maybe we don't, depending on how much we want to do. But my suggestion here would be, if we need additional funds, if we decide we want to do something that needs additional money in FY25, let's break this out as a separate line item to roll it into the security. I'm losing fidelity as to how much we really have. Let's just break it as any other capital project that we have where we're doing something. Let's track it separately.
so
And I'd say
what?
that
You want the cameras broken out from the sheriff? That line?
if we need addition, not the LPRs we've already got baked in there. But if we end up installing these new cameras that we need to talk about in the next meeting, we need additional funds going into FY25, depending on how big we want to do. We
Right.
should consider creating a separate line item as a capital project line item instead of rolling it all into this number like we have this past year. It's just,
Okay.
we lose
So-
fidelity as to how much we're actually got budgeted for it.
All right, that's fine.
These would be security cameras, not LPR cameras. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
The top one, Brenda, the security camera that you have for 24,800, those are LPR.
correct.
Yes.
And that's in your notes.
Should be LPRs, security cameras.
Yeah, label the top one LPR.
Yep. LP. And then I'm gonna label, I don't know if it's a contract or not, I'm just gonna call it.
No, it won't be.
Just security.
Just security
Security
cameras.
Okay,
All right, perfect. So the ones going down under physical environment, that's your water quality, that's a
I'm sorry.
contract.
I'm sorry, before we go down, my last question on the security. If we take out the LPR piece, that's 28,000 a year on the
Yep.
security service sheriff line item. How much have we actually burned against the sheriff's department for the details? Just if we're looking at just the detail money, what's our burn rate against the budget?
isn't that 110 through March? 110,000?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know what you,
Yeah, well, yeah, we're going over
It's gonna be over.
200 at this rate.
Oh. But we also didn't, Angel, we didn't pay the $28,000 invoice that we should have been paying in February because we terminated the contract. That was the renewal. So we haven't seen any LPR costs in this fiscal year.
correct,
Ordinarily, we'd be, so this 110 is really only
sheriff.
details. There's nothing else in that. Okay.
Yep. But also too, remember what goes here is the tri-party agreement that we collect back from them as well, that we bill quarterly as well.
We got that in revenue.
We'll have to put that up in revenue as
Yeah,
well.
we need to see that.
And
the
do
reason.
we
Go
need a
ahead.
separate line item for that one on the expense side as well? Because that's a separate agreement so that we have
But that-
regular
yeah.
details and the combined details.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because one of this, just my concern when we're doing all this stuff is like with GoGo and the interlocal agreements. We're fronting, we have the contract.
Yeah, it's our
have
contract,
to
we
go
pay it.
ahead- We have to go ahead and see whether we're under or over or whatever it is. Cause if not, then we have to adjust it or limit the number of parties into that. So-
And that's the issue when we Oh, there goes Brenda.
Where's the camera? It's a TV.
There's a loose wire somewhere. Must be.
I'm still here.
There you
No,
are.
it's just the monitor that goes off.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. When we do these mid-year, that's what makes it difficult. And then we add them in here. So,
I get it.
so you put it in revenue,
Uh-huh.
and add a line under security
Oh, I
service
like this
sheriff
one.
or above it, whatever you want to do. To reflect tri-party agreement for security, and I'll put that price in.
For
Revenue?
here. So it's an expense and a revenue.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I'm
I'll
gonna do
break
it
it
both
out.
if it's easier.
Yeah, I'll break it out of
Tri-party.
that 110 and put in the right number.
I understand.
And remember, on the revenue side, we've actually got two partners. One is Lexon and one is Crow. It's a tri-party, so we should have two separate
Let me
revenue
call
lines tracking
this.
income from each of them.
Tri-party.
Do we need two lines?
I would
One
just
entry.
do one line.
One entry.
Okay,
And then in the details, we can.
Yeah, you can
we
put
break it out.
That's fine.
CROA and whatever.
Okay.
Y'all's budget's gonna be 50 pages long.
Yeah,
I'm shooting for 49. So that's.
Yeah. Leah, are you ready for this? This is gonna be great.
So this is the tri-party right here on line 66. Is this right?
Sorry,
Yeah.
guys, I'm with you.
That's fine, tri-party.
Okay, and then I'm gonna
And then
put the notes.
And then the rest will be the sheriff, so I'll break it out and put what what the prices and all that should be.
Awesome.
All right, so,
Can I jump around again? Something just came to mind.
yeah,
No.
here we go.
What about, but, no, sorry.
we're moving on.
What about revenue? So I'm really interested in, what about any projected revenue for, and reimbursement or claims from like hurricanes or, from eminent domain?
Go up to, where did we code the FEMA
Question?
reimbursement to, Brenda? Well, it looks like right there, the settlements maybe?
No, we got more than that.
We need to find out where the FEMA checks were coded to.
Right,
It would've
because we
been
did
coded
have
to-
in previous years, it was, I think it was called hurricane reimbursement on those budgets. It's basically an other revenue, we just, if it's a large dollar amount, then we give it a name.
Do we have any projected for next fiscal year, though?
No,
No,
not for revenue.
uh-uh,
We have
But-
money set aside in reserves, not earmarked specifically for that, but you have money in reserves. I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's like
different,
a
right?
million.
I'm just wondering
Yeah.
about any money coming in.
You
That's
wouldn't
why-
know, yeah, you wouldn't know any of that unless we have another hurricane and we file for FEMA. Some things qualify, some things don't. But we did get it back this year, but we wouldn't use it there as far as an offset for revenue, because you would never know that.
Right.
But then we do know that we're getting close on the eminent domain side.
That we can, but I can't put a number in there until we actually know what it's gonna be. And also, what's the other thing on I-4 that they're looking at? Besides eminent domain, I thought they were looking to purchase land from you guys. Enterprise as well.
they bought the
might
lift
be-
station, or we just transferred that to them. They didn't buy it from us, I don't think.
No, Brenda, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Well, there's.
no, all I know is eminent domain.
That's something I know.
They were
Oh, is
thinking
it-
about
I mean,
next
like-
to the World Drive Plan or two,
That's,
purchasing some of that.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, the Duke,
Along
Make it
I-4.
Pond, I guess,
yeah, what
another
is it?
third bigger.
Right, the Duke power line area?
Yeah,
No, this is right
It's-
where the World Drive Plan was at. They were thinking about possibly
Oh.
purchasing that too.
okay. I'll have to get with Jan, but they're looking to purchase, we got a whole packet on it, land right near I-4. They were looking to
They who,
purchase
FDOT?
Enterprise. What?
You said they are looking to buy that. They who?
I think it's FDOT. I'll have to look at the paperwork that we got. I mean, I think Jan even said it was probably a year or two out before we would even see anything for that, but that would maybe be coming, and eminent domain, but I wouldn't have anything to put in to offset your revenues now.
So eminent domain, is it 1 to 2 years out from?
I don't think that one's that far out, but I want to say at least a year is what Jan said. Mark, would you, about a year?
Be a while ago.
Yeah. Do you know what
I
I'm
thought
talking
Jan
about,
said
the other purchase?
I've heard about the other one.
Okay.
The first one, first group of
Okay,
for drainage, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
But
the drainage one at our last meeting, Jan said she thought would be completed by the end of this calendar year.
Right.
But
and
we've
that's-
got no
that's-
idea what the number is, so I don't even know how we budget that. I think
Yeah.
it's just gonna be an unplanned revenue.
I think we're playing with the word year, because I think it is within this year.
yeah, I don't,
Not this fiscal year, like this year.
yeah.
I'm curious because
Mm-hmm.
when we get into some of the capital expenses and stuff like that, that's gonna come into play.
That's where you would want to use that money. I personally, I don't like, it made me really nervous when we were up for renewal for the electric, the Duke, because it was at 30 whatever, and I was like, oh my gosh, if they decide not to renew, which they could,
Yeah, you're way short.
then you're way short on your budget. So me personally,
I know,
I don't ever, no, but I'm saying overall, I don't ever like using revenues to incorporate into your budget,
No, I get it.
because if you ever lose that revenue, you're talking about a major increase in assessments to get that money back, just to make you whole again on top
No,
of
I get it.
anything you need. So it makes me nervous to do that, but they renewed, so we're good. But I don't like using revenues, but you guys, that's how you've always done it here. You've always used revenues to offset some of your budget, so which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It just makes me nervous sometimes, because if you do lose some of that revenue, it's really gonna be a number that ends up being done on the community.
Well, yes, how do we, what happens, or how do you plan ahead? Because at some point in the not too distant future, we're gonna get a lump of money for this, and I'm assuming there's no associated costs. Like, in
For-
other words, they're gonna give us blank. Are we gonna have to go around and spend X in order to?
300,000 to acquire it, or I don't know,
Or it, in
transfer.
order to
the government.
redesign or redrain something, I
Well,
don't
there
know.
could be some.
No, Jan had said at the beginning that they were obligated to pay for any re-engineering costs, any legal costs, because they were driving the
I
eminent
think
domain.
it's a check.
That's all
Here you
reimbursed
go.
to
With
us.
no,
You sign it.
so no cost to us,
That's my understanding, but I can't confirm that.
that's what I remember.
When you do that, when you have revenues like eminent domain or anything else that comes in, we would put it into your reserve account. And then if you wanted to earmark it for specific projects, we could absolutely do that.
Just do that. We want to go
You
to the
know?
Capital page.
That's, yeah, all right.
That's where it goes.
Yeah, and you could absolutely do that instead of assessing for it, you can do that, or taking out of your reserves.
Yeah, so some of those
So-
capital items will bump up to ones that'll hit this, but then we'll leave some below line so that if there's any additional eminent domain money, it green lights those projects.
You could.
Yeah, you could do that.
I
There's a
mean,
bunch of
as a
different,
top level comment, just because we're down on reserves, I would
We can
prefer not to, let's just take that and plug that in as a reserve thing and just say, hey, we're bolstering up our reserves. So we're not having to raise our budgets on the out years, as opposed to taking that and trying to do some operational cost offsets and work that into our current budget. I'd much rather just, as Angel's saying, just take it as a icing on the cake at the end of the year, plug it into the reserves and see what that does against our piggy bank.
No, let's not count our chickens before they hatch.
Well, that too. We have no idea what that number is. I mean, the initial reports that were coming through were wildly variant on the comp properties. I mean, it
Yeah.
So let's
by
just
an
work
order
on
of
our,
magnitude.
Yeah, let's keep working on
let's work
numbers.
on our known numbers.
So I guess your statute is again this year.
That's fine.
FDOT has a pretty standard cost.
I thought you were gonna put that in as my capital project.
Celebration Sanitation is the only vendor I could find to donate money to.
okay, All right, so physical environment, those are water quality. I put 150 in your pond. That's absolutely gonna be lowered with all the pond proposals that came in. So we'll be able to look at that number and have a definitive number after your meeting next Tuesday. So I'll be able to fix that number with a better number. Clark did not increase their contract, so that was good. Wetlands, I left the same. Canal bank restoration, I left at 100,000 still. I know there's some bank restoration that needs to be done. And so we need to do that.
You know, and you talking about bank restorations, what about dredging ponds and stuff like that?
That's where that would
That's
come,
part of that
right
too.
there, yeah. And stormwater system, again, left at 30,000. That, both of those kind of tie into the same thing, really.
So.
Pond restoration and then
Well, hold on. So
structures.
the bank restoration, we drew that up last year. I think it was the first time we had that large, that 6-figure number. And we haven't
Correct.
incurred any costs on that. So even the dredging, we didn't code against that.
No,
'Cause that
that
was a
went to R&M Pond.
Right.
Okay, so if we haven't spent a dime of the $100,000 in this fiscal year, are we planning to spend any of it?
I can spend it all or I can spend none of it.
Well, if we
Well, I'm
budgeted,
just,
stuff
if
that
we,
needs
if
to
we
be done,
budgeted
maybe
100,000,
spend
we haven't spent any because we said we needed to do it. Why are we budgeting another 100,000 for next year?
Right, we should budget what we plan to do.
Well,
Cause I thought there was some
Russ, what needs to be
canals
done?
and ponds
Well,
that
you
needed
did-
restoration.
you did 26,000 in the Mirasol Pond. And we put that under R&M Pond maintenance. It really should go. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was other areas near the golf course.
Like Waterside Drive, we could.
Yeah,
do-
there's other areas that needed to get done, so I guess, do we have 100,000 this year's budget to do that? And if so,
We did.
we should do it and maybe try to project, do we need to do any more? If not, as Greg's saying, then should we even plan for 100,000 next year?
Yeah, and when Russ and I talked, we needed to leave it in there. Is that not?
I can use what's there and like, Tom said, maybe just leave that blank for 25.
Yeah, cause if we can do it this year, we should do them this year, cause it's in there.
No, I agree, but I thought there was more than that that needed to be done. We would
Yeah.
exhaust 100,000 this year and then keep budgeting until we got them all done. That was my
I know I
intent.
did a map, and highlighted some stuff, and I think we categorized it 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was under the impression we had hundreds of thousands of dollars of work to do, so we're gonna break it up.
If you want them to look pristine at what's the slope?
The slopes. Yeah, and the slopes are not 4-to-1 in a lot of
Can
them.
let's, my suggestion, guys, is let's do this. Can I ask between Russ and Mark and Tom, if you want to kind of lead that as part of the maintenance piece? Let's get a report. I mean, obviously, we're not going to have it for this month's meeting, but definitely for next month's regular business meeting. What needs to get done? I've heard big numbers for 3 or 4 years put out there. Hey, we got a lot of work to do. I've never seen, here's a summary of what needs to happen and a prioritization list of those things happening and a total estimated cost, breaking
Yeah,
that down.
we already have a map of everything.
Yeah, I don't, Greg, I don't disagree, so and I think what we're looking at is necessary items, right? Not beautification items.
Right, no, this
Necessary
is,
Infrastructure
yes.
items that we need to get done, like if not, it's gonna cost us.
yeah, and this didn't include any beautification stuff. This was
I just wanna be
purely,
clear on that,
yeah,
Because I'm not,
yeah, no, it was
that's a
purely,
separate thing, this is more essential.
I
right.
was really hoping we can beautify Tom.
You can't beautify that.
It's as good as you get, and it's pretty damn good.
Not with that shirt, you can't.
And the, okay, so the rest under field, and we already have something together, so I can actually, it's not in your agenda, but we can absolutely bring it to the next meeting for, board members or send it out via email. So your contracts, none of those, all of those are contract based. The only thing, and I checked with Benchmark, mulch and annuals stay the same. Everything else, as we discussed, was combined into that one line item of landscape instead of the 15 different ones. So that's why you see a lot of blanks in there. Fuel and gasoline and oil, left that the same at 15. General electricity, again, like I said, I called Duke. We went up to 60 from the 45. Refuse, that's the dumpsters out back, so that's the same. Zeroed out rentals, which was 3,000 because, as you know, we don't rent anymore. We bought the one. Aeration, repair and maintenance, 25,000. That's also going to be dependent upon your pond vendor that you choose.
Yes.
Boardwalks, we left that at 25. Now, keep in mind, that is just the everyday repairs. That's not any.
Franklin out there.
Yeah.
300.
That's it.
Your place boards.
So,
We're getting to yours on the capital side.
oh yeah, but this ties into this.
Mhm.
So I understand he's replacing boards.
Boards and railings and
We're gonna
whatever.
have another whole subject line on the.
Well, I understand, but the 25,000 is just regular maintenance.
That's all it
Basically
is.
For lumber,
Yeah,
Okay,
for Franklin.
that's really it, lumber.
Screws.
because in the sidewalk panels, let's say we replace 3, but we should have replaced 4 or 5.
Hmm.
Okay. When I walk the boardwalks, yes, we got $25,000 worth of wood that we purchased.
Hmm.
And I look at it going, okay, I know we replaced 2 boards.
Mhm.
Why did we replace 6? I mean, look at it, right? And so that's my question. Is 25 enough? Because yes, we're gonna replace the boards that are damaged, but then you're like, replace this board, keep this one, replace this board, keep this one, replace this one. Okay, what are we doing here?
That would be a board decision.
So that's what
Yeah.
I'm throwing
Yep.
into. I don't know what that number is.
That number is what they tried to keep it
That's basically what Franklin can install in a year.
in a year.
Okay, all right, well, that's. I
And then
need
they
that.
they stay
And
within that
anything more
budget.
than that, that's a project. Okay,
That's
thank you.
correct.
Got it. That
Um,
helps.
common area, again, left it at 60.
Sorry, one more thing on boardwalks. Russ,
Mhm.
had you installed, we talked about putting in some of those slip strips, the grip strips so people don't slide on the curb.
Yeah, Greg.
Just
Actually,
for-
give that to Franklin next week.
Did,
Maybe
well, wait a minute, did
he
we,
can start
did we
tomorrow.
check with Jan and make sure we could do that? Because that may add onus onto our insurance. Yeah, we need to check with that. If that's something we can do without it impacting us, then great, get it done, but we need to make sure we're okay with that first.
So putting skid strips on something would,
It's,
You're admitting
it's-
that.
You're
it's-
admitting-
yeah, it's taking owner,
We've got signs up.
yeah, it's taking onus to another level.
It's called law school, Jack.
That's right.
Law school.
Get with it,
Jack,
Jack.
Go
Jack,
for
if you look-
professional law school.
Jack, where it kind of came up was a few months ago. I asked Russ to take a look, particularly I'm thinking the boardwalk that goes out from the back of Artisan over to the high school. It's got some really sharp S curves in there. And it got me thinking on other boardwalks, particularly because they sometimes get mildewy and they're in the shade. Is that something we want to look at as a capital project for next year of doing just that kind of textured stripping across the entire board, just for areas where there are sharp curves on any of the boardwalks that, runners or bikers are going through. So if there's a legal reason not to, would seem a little weird because we're trying to make it safer, but we talked about it 3 months ago at a meeting and Jan didn't say anything, but if we need to double check that's fine. Let's double check that. Let's get it done if she says there's no issue, but I'm also looking at budgeting for next year. If we think we want to do that as a board and do that across any sharper curves, then, what's the cost impact to that?
It's very cheap.
Yeah,
And remember, law is not based on right and wrong.
nope.
oh, I know that.
So it's based on precedent. If there was other cases in other development districts, so, no, we can't because. Again.
Hey, I slipped in that area on a bike a long time.
Oh,
ago.
I know. I did too.
No,
Yeah.
and listen, guys, this is purely a liability thing, so I'll 100% defer to what Jan says is the smart move on here. We've got a lot of sharp curve areas, so whatever she's going to advise is the best course of action, then let's go with that. But we need to think about the cost if we are going to do it. So Russ, you'll
Okay.
or Angel, you guys will get with Jan tomorrow and figure out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, common area equipment, other landscape, again, left at 200. Now that is just for purely replacements and any other, little things that you can do, that these aren't big time ticket items at all. Tree removal and replacement, that is Russ's side, 90,000. Fire equipment, that's for the building, $1,100. Painting, again, that's just the ones and twosy painting. That's not the street light painting or anything like that. Miscellaneous contingency. We've narrowed that down. There's probably some couple of things in there. We haven't spent that much of it, only 779, because if you remember last year, I kind of stopped that whole slush kind of fundish thing. So, that's where that is. Building operating cost, left that at 15,000. We took out capital outlay last year, so that's why you see nothing there.
So we'll go back up to line 100, and just add another 5,000 in case lumber goes up in price,
Good call.
which I'm pretty sure it's gonna. Boardwalks. wherever
Line
that is.
100 or
Was it 100?
Boardwalks.
90, oh,
R&M boardwalks.
Yep,
Yeah,
Be on
100,
the safe side.
line 100,
Hey,
Jeff.
you changed numbering.
It-
here, but
Oh,
Angel, let me ask a question on line 109, the tree removal and replacement. So I'm gonna ask questions that are gonna go in two different directions. On the low end, it doesn't appear we've ever spent $90,000, but we keep budgeting it. This year, we're even running well shy of where we were at in 23. Well, we still got several months to go. But so are we too high on that side? On the flip side of that, if we're gonna be doing a lot of sidewalks coming up in
We can replace it.
next fiscal year, are we gonna have more tree replacements? Because we're gonna be tearing some of these things out.
Not to pick
so
Dead.
here's your
or
answer.
go on.
We could easily budget 200,000 in there. The thing is Russ is very conscientious with the budget that the board allows to replace what can be replaced within that budget. And if he can get away with it or needs some extra money in another area, he'll take some of that 90. If it's a tree, he can get away with not replacing or something like that. So that's why you haven't seen it reach 90, but he could absolutely exhaust that and more with tree removal and replacement.
and I could point out those trees.
Yeah.
And overrun that budget more,
Yeah,
so you know.
Oh, easy.
yeah, easy.
Yeah. 'cause
So
it's-
this is just what the board has allowed budgetarily.
And here's the thing. I'm not talking about niceties here. It's
No.
Actually, like, no, we're missing a tree here.
Yeah.
There was a tree in front of the town hall or home.
Nope.
Talking about those types of replacements.
And we're very,
How many are we missing?
I think about five that I know. I'll give you the. rest.
Are you bringing up new trees in the projects category later, or do we need to discuss this now?
No, it's, trees are not part of the
Replace-
trees are part of replacements only, but
Replacement
not
trees.
enhancements. No trees are added to any enhancements or anything, because we don't need more trees.
We
This is-
absolutely are
this
going
is
to get
just,
6 new trees next week from the garden club.
that's right. If the tree, for example, is.
If it dies,
If
we
it
replace it.
dies, if it goes down in a storm,
Yeah.
we replace it,
Yeah, I
and
get
that's what these are. That's all.
Look,
that
I
these
mean,
are.
we've got a lot of trees that are declining, that probably in the next 2, 3, 4 years, we will be replacing.
All right, no,
Well, so-
so they're dead.
Yeah.
So
So
Go
how
ahead,
is
Dave.
this, yeah, so when you tell, I get concerned when you tell me we could easily go double this.
That's what I'm saying, like North Village, for example, there's a bunch of trees and they're the sweet gums that just, they're not a good tree to start with in Florida.
Yeah,
They're starting to get dead branches here and there. Spring Park Loop is another one with that. elm
So what
trees,
the question is,
But
I think what.
they're not dead.
What Dave's saying is. I'm starting to think that the 90,000 is the 90,000 historically what the board has already assigned,
it is.
not historically what is the required amount that we should have.
You're correct.
It's two different things.
Technically,
You are
you're looking at $2,000 to cut a tree down, stump grab it, and put a new tree in.
So,
So it's
Depending on the tree.
45 trees.
Greg, you
Give or take.
you had something to say.
I was gonna say, I mean, we're really gonna lose a tree one of three ways most of the time. It's either gonna be from a storm, in which case we're likely gonna get reimbursed for FEMA. So I'm really not gonna worry about that.
Not
'cause
for
it'll-
trees. We don't get reimbursed for trees.
Okay.
Not for
Okay, never mind.
replacement.
Okay, never mind. Wrong there. Number two would be
Yeah.
dead or dying trees, which should be discoverable in an audit, right? I mean, we should be able to send Russ and an arborist around to start figuring out which
Not
trees are
necessarily.
dying.
Friday, the palm tree in front of 1290 looked pretty good. Right now, it's dead.
That's what I'm saying.
That's how quick.
You're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna get a couple here and there, you drive down the
Sometimes
boulevard.
when they die, it's like 3 or 4 days. It's like. what happened to that
So-
tree?
So then the question becomes, what should that number be?
Well, because
Well,
I'm
I
hearing on
think
one side,
That's,
I'm hearing on one side we could spend double that. On the other side, I'm looking at our historicals and we've never even spent up to that number.
Well, as a field manager, I mean, I could show you an example right now, someone at 190 Longview wants the tree replaced because it's got a few dead branches.
That's,
Change that
If
to
we start
actuals,
doing
Brenda,
no,
please.
Then we're gonna get into
I
the,
know what
all right,
I know what you're getting at.
there's
I don't think-
25, 30
No,
trees.
we don't
this
want-
one, that's what I'm saying.
We don't want you to get ahead of yourself. We
When
want-
it dies, we're damn sure.
well, and that's why I asked you the tree in front of my house, I'm like, it's not looking good, no, it's okay. If it gets worse, then we'll go ahead and look at it, okay, that's the standard process, right?
Mhm.
And so that's really what we should be doing, but my question is,
Yeah, that's probably not a bad number, but that's about 45 trees. What
Well,
are
then
we,
you're-
how much have we spent so far?
Yeah. Where are we at?
47.
Well, you spent,
44, 633.
We're trading
So if
right
you wanna
into it.
bump it
Yeah.
right on,
That's a
if
6
we
month number.
keep, yeah, if we keep spending like we're spending and removing and replacing or whatever, we're gonna be at almost 90 grand by the end of the year. If we keep doing what we're doing currently.
Then, all right,
but,
that's
but,
the number.
but also, we're also assuming no major storms.
Correct.
And that, then we'll have to dig into reserves if that's the case.
That is correct.
you wanna bump it up 10?
And again, like I said, there's tons of trees out there he could do. Does the board want us to do a full audit and replace every tree that needs to be replaced?
No,
You know,
I would wanna replace every tree, I wouldn't wanna replace a tree, I would wanna plant a tree where a tree should have been.
well, that's what I mean.
That's
That too.
all, that's all I'm thinking, I don't wanna, there are some trees, that even if you go on campus, I'm like, okay, those 2 trees are dead, they have to come down, we gotta replace it.
Mhm.
Okay, but I don't think there's that many, but again, that's the thing, we'll go from 90,000 or go for 100,000. From a data standpoint, how many trees are we looking at that we really need to address? That's what I don't know. Are we looking at, do we have another 50
How
trees
many
we need
trees
to
do you
do,
have right now?
60 trees, what's our number?
If you give me 2 minutes, I'll show you what I got. right now.
Thank you.
So we can, let's go move on and we can come back to this one.
It's always good. He has all his little data.
No, well, I
In
wanna
there.
know, because then if we say, you know what, this should be 110,000, okay, well, let's
Okay.
If we, 100%, guys, if we need a higher number, let's do it. I'm not trying to cheat
Would
with us.
rather
I'm
go with a
just- I'm
higher
looking at-
number because prices are going up no matter what.
Yeah.
And he
What?
Everywhere you look,
suggested 10,000 more.
I know, but based on what?
He's getting his data. He's getting
So
it.
that's right, we get the info, then we can say, maybe, oh no, it's 20,000 more, I just wanna be accurate.
Brenda, put in the side there that 90,000 equals 45 trees, please.
One palm tree,
That's fine.
then we got.
No, not 415.
Yeah, no, that'd be great
Wouldn't that
though.
wouldn't that be nice? Okay,
There's
yep.
trees right there?
Those are good trees.
How many you got there, Russ?
So that's part of that, probably 45,000.
Now remember, each of those.
Sometimes they just pop up, lightning hits them, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, but, okay, and what are these? Oh, this is something else. Alright, the hurricane ones.
Don't be showing the secrets, Russ.
oh, they,
That's also keeping track.
There's some KFC stains here, so I already.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be giving away our
need
secrets,
it.
Russ,
Don't need to do that.
we need libraries.
right?
So I've got a few more that are not on this list, so. With the trees we have, with the numbers we have, it is
But
90,
for right now, for the rest of the year, I've got the one Washington, and
Right.
it's probably gonna be for $800. We might not have another dead tree from now till then, or we might get lightning strikes and stuff and have
we don't know.
10 more trees.
So are we looking 90, are we looking 100?
I mean, if you really wanna be conservative, I mean, another 10 would be 5 more trees. You
Do
figure
50
2,000
trees.
Or 2,000 a tree, basically.
Just
Oh,
make it
yeah.
up, so I guess we'll make it 100.
Okay, you can make it 100, Brenda. Inflation. Damn trees.
It's not the trees causing
50
inflation,
trees.
It's not?
not the trees causing.
Are you
inflation.
sure?
Russ, will
Let's-
we be,
I thought it was
Would you-
not warming.
Russ, would you expect that if we do the large sidewalk project that we're talking about potentially doing, would you expect an abnormal amount of trees we would have to remove because of that project?
No. Other than, West Water Street. Where the sycamores are at. Will
How,
not feel comfortable cutting any of those roots down on those trees there.
So how,
Because
how many is that and how,
We've had 3 of them so far.
that fall over?
One of them was right there at Waterside,
Okay.
or Water Street, I'm sorry.
okay, so you're telling me the sidewalk project, if we go forward, will not significantly impact if you're only talking 3 sycamore
Not for
trees?
the oaks, we haven't
$1,000.
lost a tree yet, knock on wood, since day one.
But the
Okay.
sycamore, got roots. Well, we can
We
incorporate.
already did one on Water Street.
No, but what I'm saying is if we're looking to do any sidewalk replacement stuff, we have to factor some of those items in,
On Water Street.
not part of the,
Yeah, so we might have to factor in
well, anywhere there's.
planting the trees.
Sycamore, Water Street, that's,
Well, the other
Less
streets, it's
sycamore.
that's the only one to mention now.
They won't
There's-
die.
There's
They'll
another
blow.
street in East Village that has the sycamores. You know the one,
East Village?
yeah,
Oh, that's another place where we had one blow over and we had sidewalk.
Right.
You know the gentleman.
yeah, I know, that's, see, I know what the trees are. Stay in school, John.
I'm surprised you even know what a tree looks like.
Well, I know what a tree looks like, I have them trimmed every year. I know where you live, Jack.
I know where you live. too.
All
So
right.
Tom, is there an action for you? Are you working with Russ just to kind of hone that number? Or are we just gonna leave it at 100,000?
No, I think you're gonna leave 100, but I'll get with him on all the stuff, because we haven't met yet to kind of go over where we are with some stuff. Because there are some trees that are not on the list, but it's not a lot, so I think it's pretty solid.
Okay, so we went down all the way, down to road and street facilities, Brenda. Okay. Electricity, street lighting, bumped that up. Road cleaning, that is, that cost includes Island Village. Even though, and extra sweeps. So that's what that includes in my notes, is off to the side, as well. So that's where you see the increase there. Street lights, again, that's repair and maintenance, left that the same.
That does not include any of the painting that we've been doing this year, correct?
No, that's
just
just the street lights themselves, either fixing the light or a pole replacement or anything like that.
Got it.
I left all those blank. Capital projects, those that you see in there are maintenance projects, I'm sorry. Those are ones that we did last year. I left all of those blanks for this year until we get to the other.
I have one question on the streetlight paint.
Yep,
So we're painting streetlights, but
Mhm.
we're also painting poles and backs of signs and everything else. So is that?
2 separate.
that's
Oh,
separate.
Okay, thank you.
Up there where you see, up more R&M painting. R&M painting, that is where all that stuff, signs, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Down below
Is just the.
was
lights,
just
'cause
the-
that's-
yeah.
That's more
Tall
heavy,
poles.
labor intensive.
Yes, and that's what we did for a project, last year.
Okay, got it.
And we're actually doing it,
Done yet.
yeah, and we don't need to
No.
budget any additional monies for it, but
Well,
we're
it
still,
should be budgeted this year,
Because it was a
but
2-year
we
plan.
haven't
Yeah.
used any this year, because he said he'd bill us October 1st of next year.
for the remainder?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, I see, because he finished all the big ones.
No, well, he finished big ones, but we got a bunch of them downtown and stuff to do.
okay, so we budgeted 40,000, but we've spent 53 so far. So we need to budget another 40 for this
I'd have
year?
To look at it, I can find that out.
Okay.
I should have the number.
All right, and then we did not buy a utility vehicle, obviously. So that never was spent, but the rest of the projects were completed. If you go down,
Sorry, the one
Uh-huh.
thing, and I don't know if it would fall in a maintenance project or where we would budget this. The remainder of the benches that we did not replace this year, because it was a 2-year
Oh, that's
thing.
right, yeah.
It's in there on the capital, right?
we got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I mean, we're on it.
Okay, okay, got it,
On the
sorry.
project tab.
Yeah, under reserve, obviously none of those, because if you remembered, we stopped earmarking stuff on that 002 tab. Because it's just a separate reserve account now, we don't really earmark much in there. So those are all blank except for the annual contribution to your reserves. So what I was telling you, if you go to the assessment summary tab, Brenda. So if we were to leave it as is right now with nothing else, you're looking at 13.7% increase, right? But what's really driving that is the 450. So if you go back and take out the 450, which I put that number in.
Forbes.
Yeah, if you take that out and you make no contribution to your reserves, you're down to 1.5%. And no projects, because we haven't
Right,
talked
we haven't
about
touched- we haven't
any
touched it.
projects, putting any money in for the master planning, any of that stuff, we have not put into this budget. So this is just bare bones, what you need, any contract increases you had, or anything like that, you're looking at a 1.5%. I'm sorry, my eyes are bad.
Probably that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And Angel, back on the other tab, sorry, would it be the whatever the next phase of alleyway repaving? I'm not sure if we're looking at it this fiscal year or in FY 26, whatever that would be. Is that coming up? Are we assessing in that?
Next one would
I
be,
see we got the 112,000. Are we actually planning on doing another phase of alley repavings in FY 25? No.
That's not budgeted. That 112 is from 23, Greg. That's what we did. If you look on Exhibit A, Brenda, I think it still shows it there. Alleyways, it's go down.
Right there, previous.
Yeah, I mean, we had talked last year for the major things like alleyways, knowing that those were going to be cyclical projects by village. We had talked last year that we were going to continue to assess, and I don't remember what the number was, but that way it's not, hey, we're not peaking and valleying. We're trying to assess a certain amount, sort of straight line average out over the years, and the projects may only hit every 2 or 3 years, but we're
225. 225 is what Mark and last year you double checked that number. You said it was good. I don't know if that changes this year or not, but I thought we didn't have to do another one until 26.
Well, it shouldn't be 225 per year. If Artisan cost us, we ended up at what, 240, 250?
No, Artisan came in under 225. We broke it
Okay.
into 2 sections.
Right. What I'm saying,
Not much under the 225, but we didn't go over that.
but if we would budget 225 per year if we were actually doing a village per year, but we're not. I mean, if we're on, Mark, are we on a 20-year lifespan? Is that kind of the expected, like?
yeah, 15 to 20, just depends on how they wear.
Wait.
And yeah, I'll have to go back and look. We put together kind of a budget with a schedule,
Yeah.
which is ranges in there.
But we didn't last year talk about budgeting. It was always
It was based-
earmarked in your reserves.
Correct, but.
Yeah.
I
Right.
see what Greg's saying.
And we based it
No,
off
we-
of the schedule that Mark
That's what I'm saying,
provided.
based on that schedule.
Yeah.
So when is the next schedule?
It's probably coming up within, I would say, 2 to 3 years, if not sooner.
Yeah, but we never assessed for it. My point was we had no intentions on assessing for it
You pull it
because
out of
it was,
reserves.
we were just gonna pull it out of reserves.
No, we talked last year, we were gonna, we have not done it historically, but we were gonna start assessing alleyways and saying, hey, if it's, if Mark's saying it's a 15-year life cycle, we've got what, 7 villages? So basically roughly a village every other year. If we assume they're about the cost of Artisan, you're looking at 200 to 250,000 per project, which means we're accruing about 100 to 125,000 per year. So the discussion we had last year was, rather than saying every other year I'm going to assess $250,000, was every year I'll assess 125. And I'm kind of making up numbers off the
That's-
cuff here, but that was the
Yeah.
intent, last year.
I apologize if I missed it, but I thought this was my assumption because we were contributing to reserves every year. And every year it had already been marked in reserves, 225,000 for an alleyway every year, even though we weren't doing them every year. And then as you kept contributing to reserves, we would keep building that up. I was not under the impression we were going to actually assess for them. So that's my miscommunication.
So,
Well-
my question is that if we, let's say we go ahead and do 125,000 every year.
Mm-hmm.
aren't we creating a different, category in reserves for that?
We can.
But isn't that what we're doing technically?
What,
Because you're not gonna be spending it every year?
correct. If that's what you're gonna do, if you're going to specifically assess $125,000 a year for alleyway specific, then yes, we need to earmark that in reserves and say, this is for alleyways, and it just keeps building and building and building. Because generally what happened on that exhibit A, where it says alleyways and whatever, roads and alleyways,
Right.
Gary had already in there $225,000 every year. Whether you spent it or not, that's what he had coming out of your reserves that was allocated. And then we kind of took all of those away and said, it's just one account. We can use it however we want.
Right.
So you can do it either way. We can take it out of reserves, or you can keep contributing to reserves and we earmark it, or you can assess every year, like Greg's saying, but we would earmark it specifically for alleyways, would be my recommendation, if that's what you're gonna do.
Well, so
That
let me, yeah,
The
let me,
resident can see that.
let me maybe zoom out for a second. So, in the past 2 years have been the first 2 years we've ever done assessment increases. We had not contributed much to reserves. In fact, the first year in 22, we didn't do any because we were coming up with such an assessment increase just to cover our operational costs. So we have not gotten to a point where we did the reserve study, but that had a lot of variance in there that number was wildly high. But I don't have a good feel for the major components, alleyways, sidewalks, things like that. If we're going to say our reserve contribution over year is going to be X, I get it in the first 2 years because we were just getting caught up to cover our operational costs that we really haven't contributed much to reserve. Soon, either this year or soon, our reserve contributions need to be based on not, well, what's our tolerance for an increase this year? It needs to be based on what are the actual costs for, hey, alleyways. And again, guys, I'm making up the 125,000 a year. That's kind of a rough swag here. But if we need to accrue 125,000 a year to keep it as a roughly straight line average, and we can say the same thing on sidewalks and the other major components. I mean, that's a budgeting strategy conversation here. Do we want to do that as straight line as best we can accruals year over year to try to keep budgets somewhat standardized? Or are we going to do the peaks and valleys? Hey, as alleyways need to come up, hey, we're just going to throw $250,000 in next year's budget because we need to do alleyways next year. That's a strategy question here. That's a big one. But I think this is the year we need to start asking that, because the past 2 years, we haven't been in a position to do that.
Right. Jack, I didn't hear what you.
I think you need to accumulate, just like Greg is saying, you can't just do highs and lows on this.
Well, because we know it's coming.
We know it's coming,
And there
and
is,
especially with what we're gonna need to do with sidewalks this year, we need to be focusing on both those two areas.
well, you forgot boardwalks. Okay, right, I mean, those are big areas. No, I don't disagree, because the reality is, if the alley is supposed to be what, around 15 years?
Yeah.
I don't know, I've been on some alleys, I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna make it 15 years, right? They're rough. They're not horrible, but we get enough rain to break it up. I don't know. I mean, I think it's something that we should consider. It's just gonna be interesting when you add that to the sidewalk discussion. And you add all the numbers and how that's gonna work out. So yes, from a.
I think our big discussion right now has got to be about sidewalks. What we're going to do with those things.
Well,
It is.
and Tom, I don't know that this fiscal year we're going to be able to implement what I just said if we're going to talk about what I've heard Angel say is probably $750,000 to $1 million on sidewalks, and we're going to do what I am going to throw out is probably going to be $500,000 to $1 million on master planning costs, between $250,000 for a charrette company, whatever the project manager is, legal fees, $160,000 for Mark's engineering. I mean, we're well over $500,000 there. I don't know that we're going to be able to then say on top of that, we're also going to do a major reserve contribution, but we need to start we need, at some point, we need to think about standardizing that budget, so it's not every year is just a random jump.
No, I get it, but boardwalks are what, 2.7?
For what need to be replaced, if y'all were to replace all of them that need it, yeah. And that number we talked about last year. Sidewalks, for every sidewalk, and this was done, it's 136,000 square feet of sidewalk that needs to be replaced. And you're looking at almost $3 million to do them.
I'm sorry, go back on the boardwalk number again, the 2.7 number. I had heard.
No, it wasn't boardwalk. I was talking about sidewalks.
No, sidewalks.
Sidewalks.
All right, well, I heard a boardwalk number first of 2.7, or did I mishear something?
Yeah, he,
No. If we're gonna talk about alleyways, we should include alleyways, sidewalks, and boardwalks. If we're gonna go ahead and put money aside, because those are the three huge expenses.
and he was talking about last year when we threw out the number of what it would take to replace X amount of boardwalks, it was like 2 million and something dollars. That's what he was talking
Right,
about.
but then I switched it, but then you mentioned like $250,000 for sidewalks. I'm like, no, it's more than that.
Oh, no, I thought I heard it was $1 million. We were talking about for side, $750,000 to $1 million was what I thought I heard Angel say.
That was the guesstimate, but now they got the real estimate.
Yep.
Is it frowny face or smiley face?
It's frowning.
It's frowny.
Frowning's good.
With a tear on each side.
Yeah. If you go to the projects tab, Brenda. And Greg, this is what it is. So at the very top, you've got 136,000 square feet of panel repairs. If just the concrete price alone is 1,156,000, and labor for removal and with roots and everything, 1,300,000, and then you've got, you know, plus there's going to be dumpsters and stuff like that. So, again, those aren't that rough of numbers because those are actual based on, like, we've got actual concrete numbers for that. The actual removal and stuff, we base that on if, on our labor rates to do that, just labor, not Celebration, our other field department. Also, we have other vendors that we're waiting on but that is the lowest concrete price that you would be able to get.
And when those
Actually,
numbers, I'm sorry.
Brenda,
if-
that's
if-
not. Yeah, that's okay. I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was just- I was widening your cells.
The estimates there.
Brenda's killing me here.
I know. Stop,
It's just-
Brenda.
It's like dizzy.
I'm done.
If the estimates you got there, Angel, those are based on all Inframark in-house rates, not
No.
necessarily going to K&D or something?
No. So the concrete K&D gives you the lowest rate. I mean, literally nobody can beat him.
Right.
He is charging, I don't know what it was. I'd have to pull up his stuff, but you guys have paid him directly. So we have invoices. He is the lowest for concrete around, even what we get concrete for.
Right.
So we base that off of his numbers, but him just doing concrete, not doing any roots, any ripping up the panels.
That's just the physical concrete.
That is just pouring the concrete. That's it. Because another thing you need to think about is every single section out here of that 136,000 square feet are going to be inundated with roots and with trees.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's why we got to replace it. I mean, that's-
and the reason I didn't incorporate K&D, I gave you his concrete price because it's the cheapest. But I'm not comfortable incorporating him doing the whole thing because we talked about it because it has to be done strategically, or we're going to be ripping up irrigation and trees and all this stuff. And you got to be really meticulous in what we're doing, or we're going to end up doing more damage and spend more money. So David he is great at concrete, and it's the cheapest out there. And I don't know how he does it, quite honestly, because nobody can do it for that cheap, literally. So those are real numbers. We can definitely, if the board's going to move forward with that, we can definitely obviously, we're going to get some other quotes to see. I did offer, we have a whole field department, not including celebration.
Right.
So what I had talked to Greg about was we could actually split the baby, right? To be able to save you guys money. Use this vendor for concrete that just comes in and just does concrete. And then we could have Infomark field staff go in and rip them up, do all the root work, frame it, form it, and then just have him come behind. So it's like a leapfrog kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know? So
Do demo, he just.
He does.
he
have-
does, but it's
He's done a
rough.
real good job, other than the last job.
Yeah.
And I know why.
It's been very rough.
He's had some people that he doesn't like. The other side of Oak Shadows.
I know,
there's no problem. I think we busted
It's-
sprinkler in.
The bottom line is we wouldn't want him to come in and do the demo for this size because we've just had some recent issues. So we would want to, and whether he does it or doesn't do it, or you go with another vendor, it doesn't matter. We're still going to micromanage the project, you know? And like I talked to Carrie and Russ, and that means they're swapping off. Maybe Russ is out there this week solely micromanaging it. Next week it's Carrie, or swapping it just to make sure the whole project's micromanaged. Because the other thing is, and the reason I thought it would be a better idea to have two vendors is because we can't leave panels open, right?
For a long period of time.
While we're waiting on concrete. So we really need to be in sync and go, okay, we're ripping up, you're coming behind. So it's literally gonna be this, the constant, you know, time.
So, okay, so, but obviously we can't do this all at once.
No, so my other option was if you break it out. So let's say it's 2.4 million. Let's say if that's what you went with, right?
Right.
Then if we did it over 2 or 3 years, it would be 750,000 a year, let's just say. And you do a contract for year one, and you do whatever $750,000 allows, and we would break it out. This is how many square feet we would be able to do of the 136. And then year two, you may be able to get it done in 2. It's again, it's going to be budgetary for you all of how far you want to break it out. You can break it out longer than that, but to really get it done right, so we're not playing catch up again when it's finally done,
Right.
you need to shorten the gap.
Angel,
You
can I
want-
just ask, just going back to the beginning, 136,000 square feet. If I divide that out, assuming they're all 5-foot sidewalks, which most of the sidewalks in town are that we're talking about in the residential areas, that's 5.2 miles of sidewalks. And I think we've got 8 miles of sidewalks in town, correct?
How many miles?
What, he's asking what I was gonna ask, what
What?
does that number represent? 136,000?
136,000 square feet. If I divide,
5,100 panels.
Yeah,
5,000
Is that
for
everything in
panels.
town? I don't understand. the
That's
scale.
all of celebration.
everything that needs
No,
to
no, no,
be
done.
replaced.
No, so what's the total number of panels?
Oh,
Oh,
I have no
all right.
idea.
Well,
It
that's
would
why.
be-
Yeah.
Dave, I'm
I'd
just
rather
going on,
Yeah.
And it's
Dave, I'm just
200,000.
going on linear feet. If I take 136,000 square feet and I assume they're all 5-foot wide sidewalks, 136,000 divided by 5 is 27,200 linear feet. Divide that by 5,280 feet per mile. That's 5.2 miles of sidewalks. I think we only have 8 miles of sidewalks in town.
You
We're
take the
replacing
136.
percent of our sidewalks.
Divide that by 25, which will give you
The boulevard's not
5 foot
5 feet, so it's not.
25 square feet to panel.
But outside of the math detail, you're telling me that's not everything in town, that's just what needs fixing.
That's in front of that many, probably 1,000 trees. 900 of them will be oak.
I mean, we don't wanna destroy a perfect good sidewalk, is what we're getting.
No, no,
Good sidewalk.
That,
no.
alright, so. it's
These are
not-
just panels that need to be replaced. Now, let's not confuse it.
An hour later.
Some of them aren't necessarily a trip hazard today. Maybe it's a hump, right?
Yeah, anything that ain't flat, I like the idea of.
That's what it is. Anything that's not flat,
Right.
that's what this 136,000 square feet represents.
Okay.
So it's not every sidewalk. We're not gonna rip up new sidewalks or sidewalks that don't need it just to get it all done. That's not what this includes at all.
Guys,
I
I'm
think
just still
that is-
stuck on the fact we're talking 5.2 miles of sidewalks.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot out there,
this is,
and it's
This-
been ground and ground and ground and.
this is exactly what I like.
Like a 1 foot by 5.
You got the warning, anytime you talk to us about a claim, it's because of the site.
This is when I was the warning for like 10 years now, and it's coming to roost.
We have to.
Where it's, I mean, you can't walk in a neighborhood and not see, in one block, you'll see 4 or 5 towns need to get replaced.
One at a
That's
time.
just on one side. It is major. And the other thing too is where some of these sidewalks are. You know, the sidewalk isn't
Like
broken,
1 foot.
but I'm surprised somebody doesn't get thrown off their bike or get thrown off this or that.
Oh, they
It is-
do.
It might be 5 miles by 1 foot.
And the other thing too is, if we don't do anything, right, the lawsuit losses.
Our
we-
insurance
We're gonna,
department's
we're gonna cry
They
after
won't
a
insure us
year,
anymore.
because then they will go ahead and go, wow, we should have spent that money on fixing the sidewalk, yeah, we should have. Because it's gonna go to the attorneys and whoever wins the lawsuit, that's what you're doing. It's, listen, I get it, we can't do it all in 1 year. But we knew this was coming to roost because it was tossed under the carpet, hoping no one was gonna see it over time. I don't know what everyone expected was gonna happen.
So Angel, can you,
Yeah.
you and I started talking about the idea, and I'm still kind of chewing on it in my head. Are you going to be prepared to flush that out at the next week's meeting, or when you going to be prepared to kind of talk about that so we can start putting numbers against that? Because I agree, this is a
As far-
multi-year thing. This can't be done in 1 year. This is, I don't even know if
Right.
it could be done in 1 year. 5 miles of sidewalk, unless they're bringing.
No,
in
it'd be
100
too
dudes.
much, it would
No,
be too
it
disruptive
can't.
to the community.
Yeah.
Well, not only
Yeah.
that, but I mean, you'd have to have whatever company you chose, they'd have to have a staff of like 20 or 30 people out here to be able to get
Yeah.
it done in 1 year. And no company has that.
What is the capacity of this guy, David?
Dave,
He
he
can
can,
get 420 yards in a day.
yeah.
No problem.
And then on the labor side, you're talking about 10 guys out there every single day, 8 hours a day, ripping up, doing routes and going like that.
The other thing you're looking at is somebody running the project management side, because what you're looking at is you can have to have proper signage, right? You gotta have A-frame signage.
Oh, there's a
You gotta-
ton
you-
that's
you
gonna
gotta
go
have a lot of
into it.
that. The other thing too is, and I think what Russ has been doing, is you can't fix, like, if, let's say you're going down Celebration Avenue, it's the easiest one. You can't do both sides, you gotta start on one side
Correct.
and go on the other side, people going to school or walking stuff, so you've got to, there's a lot of coordination that has to happen.
Well, can you guys handle it? Yeah, Infomark, you're saying 10 people working.
Not celebration
Yeah.
staff.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
We have a whole separate field department.
Okay.
You can't take away your staff here because then other things that is on their normal
That's fine.
today things
you
wouldn't
understand.
get done. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Russ and Carrie collectively together would micromanage the entire project.
Okay.
So that's the only part of your staff.
Is he coming out?
Well, so let me plumb that one for a second, Angel. I just want to make sure I'm hearing this right. Are
Yes.
Russ and Carrie capable of, I know they're capable, but do they have the bandwidth? Because I know Carrie's got other districts and Russ has other stuff within our district. Are we going to be able to keep up with what Tom's saying, not only as the projects are getting done and the planning, but also on the back end of having somebody there doing the QA checks and, hey, nope, this one wasn't done right. You know, as we've seen on a couple of the sidewalks that have been done lately, do Russ and Carrie really have the bandwidth to do that?
Yes, we discussed it today. Now, if I was just to say Russ, I would say no, because there's gonna be other things within the community, his daily stuff that would fall. So it would be Harry and Russ swapping off and doing, the oversight and the management of it.
Technically, when things get going and they're going right, it should be very smooth.
So, yes, but I'm gonna throw something out. So when we go ahead and replace just a few sidewalks, even just what we did at Oak Shadows, right?
Well, that was.
I don't understand that, but just in general, it was fairly large, it's large space. But now you really have to announce to the community the initiative of what we're planning to go ahead and do, right?
Yes,
And now your neighborhood is gonna be impacted for this, that, whatever. This is where it's not just coordinating the project, there's a PR portion that has to happen so people understand and accept and buy into what's being done. I don't think anyone's gonna say, don't replace the sidewalks
Yeah,
until it's in front of their homes,
Yeah.
right? And then, oh, what are you doing? Well, we're replacing the sidewalks. So there's another component to that. And I do think that there will be more time spent talking to residents. I can't imagine
I
not.
don't necessarily think talking to them, but.
Providing
definitely putting out
information,
the information.
yes, for
If we're gonna
sure.
do it, we're gonna do, I'm just throwing out front and back, North Village first.
Right.
I'm sure there's enough money when we start this, we do all in North Village. So we're gonna have to let them all know and then give them the maps. This is the street we're gonna
It's gonna be
start on.
strategically planned
This is
out,
gonna be the next street,
notices, signs,
street.
everything.
And then what I wanna do also, other than like, and I take part of the blame on Oak Shadows, we're only gonna do 10 yards at a time and it's gonna be done.
Right, because
Everyone's happy, homeowners are happy, irrigation's fixed. Meanwhile, we'll
it's too
start
large.
working on the next 10 yards. of
So Greg, I think going on that, and we talk about how many miles of concrete, it's gonna be interesting to say, can we even do this in 3 years? Right?
That's
Can
what
we
I'm gonna
do
ask.
it in 4 years?
How long, if we did a third of the project per year, how long would it take during the year to get done?
We talked about how much could be done in a year. I have to go get the notes off
I
of
think
that.
it's important because if we're gonna do budget numbers and we're gonna look at this. You know, cause I don't wanna go if everything goes perfect, cause you almost have to plan like
No,
9
yeah,
months.
you have to add 20% slop or
You
something.
you
like that.
have to go ahead and figure, okay, 9 months out of the year, we're gonna be doing this,
Yeah.
okay, cause the 3 months are gonna be the overruns, there's an issue here, we did, or we had to stop everything because there was a storm. I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out, really, if we're budgeting this.
I'm just wondering, can we get it done in a third
Also,
and third?
guys, let's give some discernible tasks to staff so they can, because this one's gonna take
No, I agree.
time to chew on.
And I
think
have
the
all those
time-
numbers on my desk. We went over it in detail today.
Alright, so maybe it's a presentation that we need to.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
came up with, it would be
Well, if they did 10 yards
3
at a
years,
shot, you're looking at 56 working days. To
There's
do 1/3 of it.
right?
So it's gonna be.
That's just,
All right,
that's
so
just pouring,
yeah,
that's not,
It's, well, we're gonna have to incorporate everything, so it's gonna be, it should be able to be done with 1/3 of it in 1 year.
But this is iterative, we're not gonna figure this out today.
No.
So, first thing you gotta do is get a number, what is the capacity over a year for this guy? How much can he do and how much it's gonna cost to do?
Right.
And
Well,
then, and that's our top number, and then we're gonna look at all the other stuff. And see what the impact is, and like we do every year, start pulling things back and cutting costs again.
But
So,
Dave,
Again, at the next budget, like the next thing that's gonna be put in here are the definitive numbers and what it is. And I'm gonna show you everything.
Yeah.
To do concrete, he can do this much in a year out of the 136,000, so we need to break it up. This is what it's gonna take. For the labor part of it, this is what it would take. Whether you combine it or keep it separate, that's what it's gonna be.
Greg, you had something.
yeah, just for the how we're going to contract this out, I think I'm hearing the only analysis, Angel, that you have done is based on if K&D or someone like him does the concrete pours, and all your numbers are assuming that Inframark field staff, not our current Celebration staff, but some other staff you guys would bring in as other overhires would do all of the tree root and debris removal and all that kind of stuff. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
are-
yes, that is correct. But if you look at my first number, 136,000 square feet of panel repairs at $25 a square foot is 3.4 million.
Mhm.
That is based off of a vendor that we know would do all of it, right? You might get a
Okay.
little extra cost in there for the roots because some of them are much bigger, much heavier, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there'll be some ancillary cost in there. But if you were to go with one vendor, let's just say, and there's only one that I talked to, but I want to get a formal proposal, you're looking at $25 a square foot. And that would be $3.4 million. And again, I think you're gonna add some, probably a little bit more in there because some of these roots, I mean, we've hauled out trailer fulls of roots.
Crew right now, day 3, working one house.
Yeah,
So what I would like
add costs
to-
there.
Yeah, to Dave's point of, hey, this is going to be an iterative thing. What I would like to see in a presentation then is two courses of action. One is if we turnkey this out to a K&D or somebody else, Infomark doesn't do any of the work. We simply contract it all out. What does that
Yep.
number look like as a price per square foot or however we end up doing the math? And the second option would be if Infomark is proposing some, splitting the baby, hey, somebody else is going to pour the concrete, we're going to do the work, to see the math on that. But on that option, what I also want to see, and Angel and I talked about this, I do have some concern there that creates risk for the district because now I've got two vendors that when something goes wrong, who am I pointing at? Who am I blaming where on what's going on? It's kind of nice when it's a turnkey. That way, when something goes wrong and they're off schedule or they have a problem, I'm pointing to one person as the problem. So yeah.
Right, and I think too, you have such two separate components where if the prep work is something is done, it's very easy to go to. If it's the concrete work, it's very, you know what I mean? It's such two separate components that I think there won't be a
Yep.
whole lot of that, but it's still a potential. The other thing too is Infomark is, and this came about well before this project even came up. Infomark is going to purchase a concrete truck. So because we do a lot of concrete work on our other side of field, and I had talked to Greg about this too, and I had even asked him, aside from this project, let's not even talk about this project, but Infomark is going to purchase a concrete truck. It's going to be probably a 5-yard truck. So we can do our own concrete instead of having someone bring it to us. And if the district would be, and this is a board discussion, but just letting you know, if the board would be okay if we stored it here with maybe whatever agreement that looks like,
Is there room?
that it, again, based on logistics. And when we get to that point, I would present that to the board and see if it can be stored here with maybe some concessions of, do y'all get first right? If Russ has a bunch of concrete going on or something, can y'all use it? That kind of thing, there are a rental, a storage fee, whatever. But that's going to be something I'm going to be asking the boards. So we could potentially do the entire project as well, but I don't
Angel,
know.
you can
Yeah.
store it out back there for $3.4 million.
Great. I will pass that along.
Discount 3.26.
Sweet.
Is that nice?
That's nice. I like it.
I'm a lot more generous. than Greg.
Saving money already.
Yeah.
Angel, do you think
Concrete
you
truck.
could get those two kind of, and it doesn't need to be an intricate PowerPoint but something that where you're kind of outlining those. Is that something you can have by next meeting, by next week? Or are we talking
I'm
May?
Can we have that on the agenda?
I'm hoping to. It's not on the agenda because your agenda already went out. I'm hoping to have something just to email out to you all. And if we need to talk about it at the next meeting or what have you, I mean, we have time. We can talk about it at the next budget workshop too. So
I mean,
we have time, but
I mean, Tom,
can get
there's
it
nothing
to
we
you
would
as soon as
vote on.
possible.
So if Angel is in a position that she could do it at next meeting, just under the district managers to report just informational, that way we
Correct.
can give her some guidance
I'd be
going into the budget. I just hate to lose a whole month.
Otherwise, I don't want to wait if we wait till May, it's like, well, we really have the decisions. We're not allowed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have to remember, once you make a decision, it's going to be a couple of months to even get it started because you've got to get everything in place, make sure information.
Just throw some of that.
I am. I'm going to throw something at him. I'm going to throw Rolos at him or Italian cookies.
Every time I bring up the budget,
All right,
that's
number
what
three.
I know.
All right. So, again, back to 001. I don't know. I guess everyone should probably really think about the project wise, because again, I think the number one thing, if I'm not mistaken, besides sidewalks, is this community master plan. So that's going to be really a bulk of what you're going to be putting into this budget. So those are numbers that I need to get from all different sides, engineering, council, and everything, so we can input that. But my other question to you is, I had 450,000 in the annual contribution to reserves. Is that something the board is interested in doing? Do you want to do a different number? Do we want to do no number?
I think right
wanna
now for
wait?
me, it's It's way too early to tell. I would leave it in there for now, just,
The.
Okay.
I don't know yet.
I don't know either, because
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you, the concrete number is gonna be the big number, and you know, we're gonna put $450,000 into reserves,
Mhm,
and then we're gonna pull $800,000 out, right? Cause
mhm.
I'm just saying.
It's just gonna be a wash. Might as well just put it
Well,
right
listen, we're in a point now that if we don't spend money, we'll lose money,
there. I
right?
understand
So
what
we
you're saying.
can't,
We're saying
you can't do that.
the money should go directly into concrete.
So, but that's,
So let's
but we're
wait,
not there
let's
yet.
wait and see.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so Brenda, for now, let's just put 450 in there as a contribution to reserves, and then put it down below in transfer out.
Why don't you just round it up to 500,000?
Okay, let's do what Jack said, 500,000.
Because Jack was the one who said last year to make it 450.
I know.
And there you go.
Price of statues went up, Jack.
Just remember, you can always come down. You
Yep.
can't go back up.
Right. And
Talking about the schedule.
How come in exhibit A, it says 900,000 in the reserves?
because Exhibit A, I didn't put anything in there. That's just from some
That's
numbers
yeah.
you had in there, or they had in there from a previous year. I haven't put anything into Exhibit A
Oh, so
yet.
exhibit A is not right?
No,
No.
that's why I hid it off of the one I sent you.
You didn't hide.
Ah, I didn't. Okay, it should be
Angel-
because I didn't fill it out.
We should give them the rest of them.
Oh,
too.
it's not.
Well, I can
hidden.
send you the whole
It's
thing.
not hidden, it's not hidden, it's locked.
It's locked.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's locked.
There's a little.
So
Angel,
I
do
can
we-
send
Do
you
we
the
need to
whole
go
thing.
back to the projects tab just to run through those at this
Yeah.
point?
Please,
Yeah, that's our last.
that's our
This
last
is a
thing.
negative, though. If I'm transferring it out, that's a negative.
Okay.
Otherwise, I add $1 million to your budget. Okay, projects. Oh, sorry, projects.
Losing
Yep.
Brendan. Okay.
Project tab.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant projects. Okay, yep.
All right, so the first one was sidewalk. The second one, there's 2 boardwalks that need to.
Get 15,000, something out there,
What was it supposed to be?
100,000.
Nope.
Whoa.
15,000 with 4 zeros after the comma. Is it 150 or 15?
Oh, comment in the one spot.
Do you want to look at some boardwalks
Oh, no,
by Friday, and
no.
then we'll come up with a real
Yeah.
number?
They misplaced the comma.
I
You see it?
Yes,
I can a little bit next.
Can we
week.
do it for
It's
the,
150,000.
for the next budget?
yeah. It was 150,000. There are a couple of boardwalks, smaller boardwalks that need to be fully replaced. So that's
When-
where that
When
came
we
from.
say we need 150,000 on boardwalk repairs, can you tell me where those are at, or somebody do some pictures or something? I mean, is this,
Well, Tom
is this
says
a gotta do
around
this year, or is
250
this-
replaced, and then Arbor Circle has never been replaced, that's 30 years old this year,
So the, Aquila Reserve,
where the fishing
right,
piers at.
they need to be inspected to see what's going on. Some of them.
It's sitting in full sun all the
Oh,
time.
no, I understand that, but they're in terrible shape, but my biggest concern about the one. Greg, you know, the house that had the wetlands all the way around it, and he was complaining
Yep.
about all. Okay, right near there is a fishing bridge or whatever. My concern when I walked over there is, you know, pillars are usually straight and they're like leaning left and right.
Sometimes that's just from,
Well, I understand that, but on one side, if you hold the rail, not supposed to move the rail like that. It's supposed to be solid, and so now, okay, so what's the integrity of this? So that's the thing, it's inspection of it.
could be just the bolts need to be tightened up with it too.
Could be.
Tom,
I
can
go ahead and say they need to be replaced, but they definitely need to be cleaned and inspected.
whatever
So
these
that's
two
what we're gonna look at.
Yeah, whatever those 2 boardwalks are, if I could ask, can Mark go out and do an inspection? I know when we had some issues post-storm, he was able to take a look at some of them. Just to see, are there structural
I got that,
problems? Or
so
just,
Call them,
Right,
have them
stuff.
come.
Yeah, at
Give
least
us
the
a
ones in
price.
Killer Reserve, Greg, they're, number one, they're very dirty. And number 2, does anything need to be replaced? There are some boards that replaced it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's kind of like when you replace something, you replace these boards and then you look at the other one going, holy crap, that looks horrible. Because you just put a new board down. But then you realize, you know, there's issues. So they need to be inspected to see what the best process is. I'm not pushing for them to get replaced, but they definitely be inspected and they go, no, these aren't good.
So.
Yep.
I gave
So we need to look
April
at
and Russ a vendor that does boardwalks like this, they can go out with Mark need be and take a look at these locations. I'm actually shocked it's that low. I'm thinking of boardwalks that have been around for 30 years, you only see that there are two that might be replacing.
Well, we've had other ones replaced. And we just did, Tohi last month.
Mark, have you ever done a,
Wait till we gotta do
putting
the
a
high
can of
school.
worms, have you ever done a town-wide inspection of our boardwalks just for structural stuff, just to kind of look through all of them to see their condition?
No, and I don't know if I'd be the best qualified, I could, I could. Obviously look at them just like anyone can and push on railings and see what's loose, but as far as structurally looking at the beams underneath, you really probably need someone that specializes in boardwalks or at least a structural engineer. Or unless Russ's guys are familiar enough with what you've seen out here already, what to look for.
We can replace some of the stuff underneath.
And when we say replace a boardwalk, are we talking?
We're talking all,
section?
basically just all the deck boards. Generally,
The whole, all the deck boards, the whole thing.
it's a hand.
Yeah, but I'm
sleeve done.
concerned about the
What about
pillows in everything.
I'm thinking of everything.
I'm seems to be talking about the structural
And pillars,
joists underneath.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be something different.
think the pylons or
that's
whatever.
that's what I'm thinking.
And that
So
we'd have
guys,
to
here,
have.
here,
check
here
in the
would be my suggestion, if we can put into the budget, aside from whatever immediate replacements we may or may not need to do, we want to consider having an engineer, if Dave, that's who you're saying, so you know a guy, to do a full audit of what's in town. And what I'm thinking is, if we really need over the next, whatever, 10 years, 15 years, if we're going to need several $1 million in boardwalk replacements, because these things are all hitting 25 or 30 years, why would we not consider rolling that into a potential bond as an additional bondable item, just so we can amortize out the replacement of those things? Because those are going to be pretty expensive to do as just a year-over-year reserve thing. We could do it as reserves, but if we know it's a bondable thing, why would we not consider that?
Yeah, I think I think we'll go ahead and see that the sidewalk repairs are very small compared to what replacing boardwalks would be,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So anyways.
So
Um,
can we are we in agreement? Can we get a number into the budget just for an engineer for this year to do a full assessment of everything that's in town, that going into next fiscal year will tell us, hey, you've got, 5 million, 10 million, $1 million worth of stuff to replace.
Yes, but I do think for the two boardwalks, the one, what was the one? Arbor Circle.
If there's immediate stuff we need to get done, then let's look at getting
Well, we
those
need to
done
inspect-
and assess those.
I think we need to inspect those two and see
Yeah.
what has to get done, and then we have some sort of number to put here.
Okay.
But we have to do that for it.
I have the name. I can ask them if they can come out and inspect those two.
Yeah, I
And
don't know, you're
give
not
us
gonna
a
get an
cost.
engineering structural assessment from them. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get a vendor going out like, yeah, that looks crooked, or,
What kind of vendor?
I'm not sure if I'd want a vendor, Dave, because a vendor's going to come out here and tell me, you got to replace everything.
Done all of our boardwalks for 20 years.
what's that?
I can get Nash Construction, they've done all of our boardwalks for 20 years.
I can call maybe a structural engineer that I've worked with and see if he'll just come take a quick look. If it's just those two, he may not do an assessment of the entire community. But I also have just other engineers that I work with in other districts that would probably be more than happy to come look at those too and tell us structurally. I mean, they assess the docks and everything else in other communities. So I could ask them too.
Put your snake boots on.
Huh?
Put your snake.
Yeah.
At least you gotta get in the muck
Nope.
underneath them.
So I'll figure it
Yeah,
out, see what I can get out here.
Yeah, guys, for those two, again, I'm okay. If they need to get done, they need to get done. I would like to consider doing an entire site assessment of everything in town. If we have never done
I
a
don't
structural
disagree with that.
assessment of these boardwalks.
Otherwise, we don't know what we're talking about. From a strategic standpoint.
I'll find a structural engineer that will come and do a full assessment of everything.
Andrew, we had a company, they're out of, I think it's Tampa area, Premier Engineering, structural engineering, but they also do construction work. They did this stuff out of the Oak CDD. Might be someone to call to.
I mean, my only caveat there would be I would not want to get a vendor coming out and doing an assessment because they're gonna tell us we gotta replace everything.
No, I'll get a structural engineer and have them come look at it. All right, so the next thing you wanted was street legal maintenance vehicles. If we replace 6 vehicles, they're at $30,000 for gas or approximately the same for electric, but then we'd have to look into the whole charging thing and see how that works. Now, this is the caveat. This is based on having them street legal in the community with mile per hour 30 or below.
Right.
Which means they don't have to be plated, but they have to have all the horns, blinkers, lights and all that. Yeah, we've
How
called,
would they get to Island Village?
huh? It would have to be trucked. They could,
Or we,
when they,
or we have
they
to get Mattamy to give us a utility shed out in Island Village.
yeah, when you say street legal, we've checked into it. I also talked to United. Cause theirs are all street legal. But they're not plated. They're looking into getting them plated, but they're being told the same thing I was told when I called the tax collector's office. And you're not gonna find one of those vehicles to be able to get them plated. Russ has reached out to CROA several times to,
Got the message back, they said all of their electric vehicles are junk.
yeah,
I've actually.
Well, they got
checked.
Nevs.
yeah.
So.
They got the gems.
And Nevs and those won't serve our
So,
purpose,
no,
so.
For me, I understand wanting electric vehicles and stuff like that, but the problem is.
We don't personally,
So, no,
you guys.
everyone talks different things.
Yeah.
But the
There's
problem-
optics to it.
I understand that, but the reality is that our staff does a particular job in these remote locations and stuff like that. The infrastructure to put the chargers here, right, is gonna be a hell of a lot of money. This doesn't cover the vehicle. And our guys go all over the place. I don't think you can, I don't think it's very feasible, in my opinion.
Not-
I
Again, I'm
don't
not
either.
one of, you know, Russ, I'm not one of your team.
I think someone
I
asked
think it'd be
for
difficult.
electric and that's the only reason why we included it, but our preference obviously is gas.
And I do believe that 30,000 can be dropped down at least to 20,000 right now with the gas.
Really?
I've been doing a little bit
how
of
you get them
research
so
on
cheap?
some of the vehicles.
Well,
Built them.
Brett told, I asked Brett, cause he just got all of his. His, I think, are a little bigger than what we need.
They do have one small one I seen today.
Okay.
So.
And
but-
he told me they have they have national pricing, so they were
Oh,
able to get all of those for $29,000 or $24,000. That's through their national pricing. So that's why I put 30,000 because, but Infomark also has a fleet
Okay.
national thing that I can look into with Chris. So I put 30,000 at the very high end. We may be able to get it lower,
Yeah.
but we have 6 vehicles out there that the district owns that you'd want to make street legal. And in order to do that, they're $30,000 a piece.
So we need.
Maximum.
So. we-
Max.
Okay, so we need 6 vehicles.
No, you have 6 out there. If you're wanting to make them all street legal, there we have 6.
What do you need?
Up to you.
An- Well, Angel, it's up to you guys to tell us what you need, though. Do you need all 6? In order for you guys to do your jobs and be legally compliant with where you got to go, when you got to go there, how many do you need?
We gotta have 5 minimum.
Yeah, minimum of 5. I mean, I was gonna be a smarty pants and just say, well, they've been doing it this way for 20 something years.
Yeah.
And, you know,
We're through the BS flag now.
Well, one of them.
There's the flag and the Johnson flag.
Yeah.
There you go.
so I would say 5 out of the 6 for sure.
What, Jack?
6.
Why does it do 6?
What does 6?
Yep.
Let's do the
Yeah.
6. That way we don't have to worry about who's got the bingo vehicle today that can't go anywhere.
Bingo.
And again, that is without a plate and they're only street legal on streets that are less than 30 miles an hour and under. So the boulevard, yes, they would have to be trucked to Island Village and go in.
Technically, nobody's mules in celebration should be on the boat.
No,
Let me ask you a question, because, for instance, how fast do they go? What's his max speed on?
like
The new
24.
ones now are going 40 miles an hour.
Oh,
No, what's
I didn't know that.
what's the certified speed for it though?
What do you mean certified?
Well,
They're
it's
not
like
all different.
like Nevs are certified to 25 miles an hour.
But
Allowed
you
to-
do the regulator, you can go.
You can
like
go,
30.
yeah.
No, legally you can still do 25.
I'm
on
sorry,
that.
that was Herschel.
yeah, legally, those are usually about 25.
If they go anywhere, you gotta look at their brochure from 25.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
35.
but
They-
typically
they can
you're
either go
allowed to
40.
you can allow to go a street that's 10 miles more than your max speed.
Right.
And that's the problem with the NEVs. They can only go to 35. That's why they can't use it. If your vehicle is certified at 30, then you can use the Celebration Boulevard.
Yeah, it'll depend on what vehicle we can get.
Listen, I wanna make sure there's safety and there's consistency.
Mhm.
I've seen, and I showed you that video of people, that there's a lot of other companies driving on the sidewalks and
Oh,
having
yeah.
people jump aside as they speed down faster than me on the boulevard. And so that's a crackdown that has to happen. But anyways, but we're not talking about that. So
For the purposes of this, 6 at 30,000.
6 to 30,000, we're looking at gas.
Yes.
And again, I only threw that in there because somebody wanted,
No, I get
Green,
it, but
electric, but
Wasn't me.
was it you?
It's just not, it's just not practical with how far we need to go.
No.
Becomes, for me, I wanna
It's
get
not.
the tool for the purpose,
Yeah.
and this isn't the right tool for this purpose.
No, we don't need to have a thing that has to go get its battery recharged in the middle of the day and we lose guy.
Yeah.
labor that day.
And we're covering a large distance, so gas it is.
Yep.
Correct.
So,
Next.
well, there's an ancillary part that you brought up, which is the idea that we would need to bring one of those and reposition it down to Island Village. We wanted to use it there.
That one, if we can't be on the boulevard with these, even though they're fitted street legal, the boulevard is 35 miles an hour.
If we can't
40.
use the boulevard
Yeah.
or the sidewalk, then right away we need to buy another truck because we do trash and stuff down there, so
Yeah,
I'll stop Tracy from even doing anything down there tomorrow. Is
So-
that-
so
that
So
the
do
way
we need
it is?
do we need a truck down there in
Yeah,
Island
yeah.
Village?
I don't want a truck. I mean, we're going around ponds and stuff. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna have to walk,
All right, so what do you want down there? One of the 6?
What's that?
One of the 6 is what you want down there. One of the
We
6.
go down there every day with one of
No,
our
no, no,
mules
but-
right now.
no, but if
you want?
we had to place one down there, we're saying we'll place one down there for use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
All
See,
right,
right now, we're driving the vehicle on the
Correct.
sidewalk.
that's
all the
what
way
he's
to Island
saying.
Village.
Yep,
You can't do that.
yeah. And then we're doing that every day because they have to pick up trash.
being mean, but is there
and
a reason
everything.
why we can't use the sidewalk?
Because you.
Because the county uses 192 sidewalk, and they've been using it for 10 years and
I-
they're on it. I've always told my guys, if you see anyone getting near you, get on the grass, stop your vehicle, let them pass.
So here's the problem we have. We're driving on the sidewalk. Pro is driving on the sidewalk. Nevs are now on the sidewalk.
Those aren't on
Yeah,
the sidewalk.
Yes, they are.
I don't doubt it.
I passed 2 of them. We high school pickup time, you'll see them.
Where's our police patrol?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying is that the sidewalks aren't a highway. They're becoming a highway. They're becoming a highway. So, everyone's gonna say what we want to do. I'm just saying now that the sidewalks are a highway, and if we're gonna do that, just tell everybody that people to stop walking the grass.
Do we have a
So-
place in Island Village to store one?
Well, yeah, but
It's not
can't
great.
guarantee, yeah, it's. there's
Can,
no security.
for the short term, guys, can we simply buy a 10x10 shed and stick it in the back of the lot we own back behind the K5 school? Nobody will even know it's back there. Lock that thing up every night.
Or do we need an actual maintenance shed like you got over in the
So,
Junior Bend?
and one other thing, I'm not saying tonight that we're gonna tell anybody to stop doing what they're doing. We're not there yet, right? Because we don't have the vehicles, we don't have anything. So I'm not saying tonight.
Not telling
just-
staff not to do anything, but we've got to get this
No,
fixed.
no, we're not there yet. It's just
Okay.
at one point, we gotta get there. So is that clear?
We just want to make sure we're doing what you guys want us to do, but we do have someone that goes to Island Village every single day to and from, pick up
Well,
trash
I-
and do all
But
this, so.
there's a difference, because when he's on there, you see how fast he's driving. It's not fast.
Hmm,
He moves aside for people.
yeah,
He's probably the only person on the boulevard that does that, because everyone else just,
yeah, and it's the
Don't
same
care.
guy, it's Tracy.
no, he's professional. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
And he's the one that goes down the
Yeah.
road
That's what I just, yeah.
for now.
This isn't a
Tracy.
fault of you guys, Russ. This is the board has not enabled you guys to do
Oh,
stuff.
it's Russ's fault. He allowed this
Yeah,
garbage
Okay,
to
never
go
mind.
on
It's Russ's
2
fault.
decades.
Well, and I'd be
Now-
curious, you guys, just remembering the numbers. I mean, if we're gonna take these 6 old mules and sell them off, there's some value to that. We're gonna recoup as revenue. I don't know what that
Yeah,
number
for
is.
sure.
That'll
Your
offset
Christmas
some of
party.
this.
How's the cyclone legal be on the road?
Yeah, the cyclone.
Is
It's
that
not
legal to
street
be on the
legal
road? It
either.
only goes like 12 miles an hour.
I'm
on.
You know
The
what?
sidewalk cleaner can't go on the sidewalks?
I thought it was 6.
On the road, it can't be on the road.
I'll be on the road. It barely moves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
next
the-
line item.
That is the next line item.
All right,
New curb sidewalk.
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant, so I put a question mark.
So we were trying to figure out
Like an adapter?
when Brett was here,
Uh-huh.
okay, looking to having something go ahead, run behind a truck, they'll go ahead and clean the curb
5 feet wide.
without having the big machine that goes 12 miles per hour on.
So we want to clean the curbs that aren't our curbs.
No, we want to clean the curbs that are our curbs.
Are any of them yours?
None of ours.
None of the
Well,
curbs.
none of them are ours,
Okay.
technically.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I understand that, but they.
In front of the common area.
No, I'm not
So
disagreeing.
That's what we're looking at.
Okay, so complete sidewalk solution surface cleaner,
I
3.
think this is
Tom, are
not
you
like-
talking about replacing the cyclone or this is
Grant?
something?
29.95.
I,
That's
Different
4
attachment.
foot.
it's a different attachment
Five.
that would connect like a truck or
There's a
something,
5 foot
but,
wide one too.
I mean, I'm gonna go,
Whatever one we.
go to you on this.
5 foot
I
wide
know
sidewalk,
politically, I don't care about
No,
that.
Yeah.
Okay, but
29.95. It's
what do you think of the
4,000 square.
cyclone? Is this working?
One at a time, please. I'm sorry, I was hearing several conversations.
Yeah, Jack. So the question is the cyclone working for us?
the cyclone is working. We did use it Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
It worked good,
So,
great. But
How
that was,
vague is this?
that
answer?
was Saturday and Sunday. I'm just being honest with you.
No, I know.
Because you
that.
never know from day to day.
It took 3 months for one bearing.
Yeah.
We ordered a bunch of stuff. The one bearing was the holdup.
But you guys work like, during the week, through the year. So when you're down for 3 months,
Oh, just that. I mean, like Greg's out pressure washing every day.
but I'm talking about the
Cyclone, when it's
So
when
that
it's
might-
not being used, yes, we are doing stuff to it and all that, but every time you use it and take it out, it physically has to be taken apart, cleaned,
Well,
not taken apart, but cleaned and all the little,
I
you know.
wanna know. if-
Here's a
I-
five.
Here says new curb sidewalk cleaner. So we considering
I
this,
think
not
that-
considering this?
29.95.
What they're talking about is this, what Jack's showing me, and it's just an adapter, complete sidewalk solution surface cleaner, and it's about $3,000 and
5 foot wide path
yeah.
whole way.
An adapter to what?
It's just a pressure washer.
But that would be curb, that would do the
No,
curbs?
no.
Oh,
You gotta come up with curb.
There is a.
a curb
thing
One on
adapter,
that side, not the disc.
No.
That double.
We're gonna have to do research on this,
yeah, no, I
right?
agree.
But if we're looking at,
Yes. Hold up.
I just wanna make sure we've got the right.
I know we have-
So
Right.
Tom, let me ask this question.
Right.
I'm gonna attack this from a different angle. If the responsibility for cleaning of the curbs in front of residences is based on the deed, and the deed for each private owner points back to CROA's rules and says thou shalt do. Why
No,
don't we-
it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't do that.
No.
The,
Belongs to the county.
It's
I
in the right-
understand that, but pause for a second. The sidewalk cleaning and the verge areas. Those right now are being enforced by CROA because in the private homeowners deeds, it says you will maintain cleaning of the sidewalks and you'll maintain maintenance of the verge areas. So
The
my
easement-
question is,
Easement to curb. It doesn't say anything about county property.
I
It says
understand that.
easement.
So my question is, why can't we ask CROA to say, can you amend your rules to simply include curbs as well? There's nothing magical
It's
about
their
the county
property.
property as a curb that they couldn't include that in the rules.
Because
Greg, I think what you're asking about the thing is like the boulevard's a prime example. There's no one that lives on the boulevard, but it's all county curb and we've done it before.
Right,
Well, the-
Right.
That's about
The,
4 miles.
the boulevard is, from what I understand from talking to Russ, is easier because it's one straight shot. The residential areas are where we can't use this adapter that we've got now on the Cyclone
I
because
wouldn't do resident. So I'm only, listen, this curve thing is
Just for our.
boulevard only.
Oh,
I'm not, I don't know why we jumped to do the residents. 'cause
well,
that's
that
the
was
whole-
part of the conversation last
that's
year.
where I
is-
thought you were going with this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right, no, I'm just looking at the boulevard solutions.
Well, that's a different, yeah,
Most
that's a
people
different
watch
conversation.
In front of their homes, some don't. Okay, if you already have, huh, I do,
I didn't say that. I do.
I do. Well, because if the
He's
guys
the-
are,
I didn't say
he's the
that.
one that said you
if
do.
you already, if you do, no, if you already go ahead and clean your house, it's another $10 for them to clean the curb. It doesn't make sense not to do it. But
That's my point. Thank you.
I agree with you 1,000%, but there's about
3,000
10,000
Alright,
of
so
the
how
residents
much-
have done.
Yeah.
To
You are
run
the
into
very
habitat.
well minority.
So, Mr. Crowe liaison, can you talk to Crowe about them possibly amending their covenants to
It's not
include
our
curb
covenant,
cleaning
it's
along
our
with the
agreement
verge?
That TCC had signed to CROA.
Wanna put a number to that, number
Back
5?
in 1994, that was the agreement they signed. Get TCC to do it.
So we can't do anything about the curbs and neighborhoods.
No.
But I'm not, but see, the other thing, I really, when I looked at this, we really used the cyclone for the boulevard, right? We used it maybe around the school.
You only use it
Well,
for
we use it on the
8-foot
8-foot
sidewalks.
But that's,
Golf
but most of the sidewalks aren't, most of it.
Correct.
Well, we got, most aren't, but there's.
I know, I understand it. I understand that. So,
I mean, well, yeah, the boulevard itself.
so I guess we don't have an answer whether we need a new
You
sidewalk.
wanna put a number to that, like $2,000 or something?
No, he's got, what was that, 4,000?
995.
Yeah, it's a 5-foot path you
5-foot
just
path.
push.
That's the answer to our question. $3,000.
Well, that's just for the,
That's the
sidewalks.
That's all your sidewalks, you just straight shot them.
But it says new curb sidewalk.
Well, we'll press off curb.
It said, no, I'm not.
Well,
It's clean.
that's a different machine, different line item.
Appointed. Seems that's
Next line.
All right. So that's 3,000. So additional dog stations, and trash cans mainly on Celebration Boulevard. Dog stations are $1,200 each, and then obviously staff would install them. Trash cans are about $900 each, and obviously we would place them. So depending on what you want to do there. Aerators. So what we were looking at before, there's about 10 ponds that still need aerators. That's 13 systems due to the size of some ponds needing 2 in there. And I did call one of the vendors that proposed just to see what their cost was, because we already had a cost from Solitude, which was what, almost $30,000? No, 140 something thousand. And this one vendor said, I was just out there, did an inspection, because I asked him, how many aerators, did you think we needed any? And he said, yes. He goes, I think you have 10 ponds that could use them. And there's 13 systems, and it would be about $115,000.
But that's, but that is based if we pick them.
No, that is just yeah, that's based on them. Another vendor may think you don't need any or may
Okay,
need
okay,
20.
okay.
But
Yeah,
because
I'm,
we got the proposal from Solitude that said we needed, and it wasn't even for 10 ponds. It was for 6 ponds for like $130,000 or $140,000. Basically, they were about $40,000 cheaper than what Solitude had said, and more ponds and more systems. So, yes, bollard light
I'm-
replacement. Oh,
Wait a minute, Greg got something.
sorry, for the aerators, I'm not convinced we need them yet. I don't even know what 10 ponds we're talking about. I would like to understand those 10 ponds. And over the next 90 days, as the weather's getting warm, actually start seeing if we have algae blooms that are not controllable or other issues that are driving these aerators. When we asked the question to Solitude, it was,
yeah,
hey,
they're
which
already out
10
there.
Yeah, it was which 10 would you do next? It was not, hey, do we actually need to do them? These were just kind of the next 10 in line, but nobody really said foot stomping, you got to get them done.
I'm with you.
Because
Yeah.
that's what I asked you today, Russ, is that that company looked and said all of our ponds look like crap. Is what I got
Yeah,
out of their report.
One of the vendors did, and there are some ponds that look bad. I wouldn't say they all look bad, but we're gonna go and look at them. But there are some that are already have a pretty good amount of algae on them already. But I wouldn't say all of them look terrible. No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that there's a $10,000 cleanup fee needed. I personally don't see that. But we're gonna go and look. So bollard replacement, they went out and looked. There's about 10 that needs to be replaced, and
I think that's a yes.
he's basing it on just the ones of the.
That's actually, we're gonna get, we still need to add 5 at Spring Lake. We used them up in the last 26 we bought. We found a couple more. So that'll give us 5 spares and we got 2 in the shop. So that'll give us 7 spares
I
to
don't-
change out.
But I think that's unnecessary. I don't think that's an option. We need to do
I
that.
I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
why we put it, because remember, we did some
Yeah,
last
okay.
year and we said we were gonna do some more this year.
Yeah.
Because they are expensive. They're about
For $2,800.
2,800 a piece. So that's why we split it up. So that's on that. There's no irrigation clocks at this time that need to be done because he bought that maxi stuff, that $50,000 before. So there's nothing there.
Well, but wait a minute, because those are going
Uh-huh.
end of life. This was a discussion we had last year. that
Yeah.
We put the Band-Aid on it. We spent 50 grand, but we've got a Band-Aid now on something that is end of life. That's not going to be replaceable. And you said last year this was going to be over $200,000 to replace all these things.
That is correct. And Russ tells me you have at least.
Brett said it was $200,000.
No, we did. We got proposals on it, but you said it would be a few years with all the MaxiCom stuff that you bought.
Let me get a hold of Brian Greenberg tomorrow.
So
Okay.
you bought us a couple of years is what you're saying.
I'm thinking we bought more than.
Yeah. Brett seemed to
But-
think it would be a 2-year thing.
As long
'cause-
as that app works
Yeah.
on the computer, I don't see why it just can't keep going.
Russ, can you move the mic a little bit closer to you? Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Once that app goes, we're done.
I think, but I think what Greg is saying
Huh?
is.
Y'all were gonna start putting money into reserves this year to start getting to that number.
Because otherwise we don't.
Yeah.
hit.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that needs to be replaced right now, and that was my point
Okay.
of putting that there. But yes, part of the reserves that y'all are contributing, we need to start, some of that can be put towards irrigation, because from my understanding, we spent 50 or 60,000 to purchase all that MaxiCom stuff, which bought you a few years before we'd have to redo the system. And at
Is
the
the
time,
system
we
still
didn't get-
approximately $200,000 to fully replace?
Oh,
Is that still?
I was just fixing to say, at the time that we were talking about this,
It was
200.
Who knows?
It could be more.
And
I,
what
you know,
features we want.
correct. And what our options are
Yeah.
and what system you want to go with. So it's gonna vary.
Okay.
Add a sidewalk to Spring Lake, Spring Park Trail cut through.
Wait a minute, are we gonna do this? I thought this
Well-
is the area that we,
Well, hold on. So there's 2 separate issues. One is to put a sidewalk to tie into the other sidewalk, right? Roughly, it's about 50,000. I think, how many square feet did we say?
I think we figured it 400 and some lineal feet,
Right.
and I think it's an 8-foot sidewalk back there.
So the other part of that is, that's also where the gentleman lives that has had the burglaries and is asking us to do the fence extension.
Yeah, every time we say no.
I know, and it's coming back up next Tuesday.
But if we add a sidewalk and we're gonna increase volume by 90%, I think it would behoove.
Behind his
us
house.
to do The fence lines.
But it's 5,000.
And if that's the case, the extension of the fence, again, rough number, but we can go out and we'll do it before Tuesday's meeting, roughly another 5 grand to extend that fence where this gentleman is talking about, because you are gonna basically add a ton of access right there where
yeah.
he's already
It's probably
complaining.
already there.
It is, you can tell,
already
we
there.
have pictures, the walking, you can tell people are walking that area every day. I mean, you can tell by the path it's created.
do we need a 6-foot wide, an 8-foot wide sidewalk there?
If you tie it into the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
sidewalk
yeah,
that's
sure.
there,
Back
Yeah,
and Spring Lake's 8-foot too.
so that's why.
I don't think we have a choice on this.
But again, we're gonna go out and take some, we have pictures already, but we're gonna go out and measure it and all that. Probably Friday when I'm back
Actually,
here.
the choice would be to fence it up and say no.
Which you can't shut down the trail.
Well,
Why
no,
not?
they have to take the.
There's a sidewalk that goes a
It's
little
a
bit further
cut-through.
around Boardwalk,
It's a
and that's right back.
It's a
up the
shortcut.
sidewalk.
Yeah,
It's either that or you barrier it off somehow. Which
Yeah.
might be just as expensive, I don't know.
could be. We're gonna go look at it. We'll take pictures and we'll have a full thing for you all. Fence, sidewalk, nothing, all of it. We'll have all the options for you to discuss, because
Yeah.
that gentleman has requested it be brought up again. He's, very upset about the burglary and
We'll listen and
Yep.
we'll work on it.
Yeah.
See if this is possible.
And that's what I told him, and he's been very nice, by the way. Washing the
So,
school,
Angel,
these are
I'm-
expensive.
Angel, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, on the irrigation clocks piece, just so I understand the action here, we are saying that in the next X number of years, 2 to 3 years, we're gonna need these, correct?
I will have more information
yes.
probably by Friday.
In a
Oh,
few,
so-
in 2 years or more, you're gonna need to replace your irrigation system, yes. And my answer to that was, if you guys continue to keep contributing to reserves in whatever amount that is, I would start earmarking X amount of that money for irrigation, so you have it.
So my point is for us, guys, we need to be looking at our reserve number and earmarking, because now we're talking this, we're talking alleyways, we're talking other
I agree.
things where we
Mhm.
Yeah,
I don't.
need to understand the logic of the
Not a big
number.
pot of money.
so you're gonna take a look at, that's exhibit A, right?
Yeah, I'll fill that in, and what I'll do is I'll put back in the categories that we had, but I just won't assign them numbers yet until our next meeting.
Alright.
I'll put it on the project tab of hard numbers that we've gotten, and then we can start earmarking, because you'll start with that number that we always had. This is $6 million. You got $1 million for operating for your first year, that hurricane relief, self-insured, and then you can start, and then you end up with
Okay.
about just under $1 million that you got to work with. So that's what we'll do on there. Back to projects. So then you've got expenses that were asked for. It was about $1,800 for us to pressure wash the high school, and that was with the cyclone and the labor, which you guys are already paying for the labor, but that's essentially what the cost would have come out for us to do the high school if somebody would have hired us to do it. If that makes sense.
It's costing us
We didn't-
anyway because of overtime.
Correct.
I don't want him doing it Monday through Friday.
No, you can't. That'd be,
Yeah.
no, you don't wanna be on campus with it.
No, we had to do it on a Saturday and Sunday, but
This is on school property. Right? It's not on the sidewalk in front of the
No,
school.
this is in
This
the
is
school.
it's in the school.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, how many times a year do you wanna do it? You do it in the summer?
Well, we had started back in October and then the machine broke down, so we wanted to finish it up.
Well, when Jack gets his new machine,
I get to use it first, though.
It just paint a new logo so we could put the
So,
statue.
Dave, I mean, they haven't done it in 10 years, so I don't know that we're gonna need to be
Yeah.
out there every 6 months or every year. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, do we actually have a cost associated with that, or you're simply saying
Yeah,
that's what it
it's
would have
right
been on
there.
the market?
it's
But you-
$1,800.
But you said that's what it would have been if we had charged.
That's
What-
what it cost us to go and do it on Saturday and Sunday was $1,800.
what I'm doing is giving this visibility, and putting in the budget so that we're signing up for it.
That's why he wanted the expense number. So I got with what Juan was here Saturday and Sunday, what he makes. It was overtime for him to get it done, the 2 days, and it was $1,800.
Do we include
Now,
K8?
I think they used to do
we do
K8.
that.
No, we do the K8.
Yeah.
I'm not against this, but what I'm saying is. if
That's
we-
not in there.
Right, do we need to do that too? I
Good.
think it's just visibility, this is what we're doing.
I don't even think there's anything at the K8 at the cyclone. Pressure wall.
No, don't
No,
we
but
do
there's
that by
like-
hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
You manually do it.
Hmm.
Labor ball, because we go around the whole block.
Right,
That's what he wants.
yeah.
But that. We do Monday through Friday.
It's still.
Right, there
cost.
would be no
It's not-
overtime, but there's,
The impact is.
Now, what we can do, and I don't have a problem. But right now, we have some of our own 8-foot sidewalks that need cleaned. That's why I had him do it on the weekend.
Well, that's different.
Mhm.
So, but if we can kind of get caught up and stuff, we can next time do that Monday through Friday, whatever.
Well, and I think that was,
Work-
yeah,
work
that
on
was, that was my intention. I didn't think we're actually spending extra money. I don't think we should have any extra
Well,
into the budget
you-
for this. This was just the time for
you
it.
didn't.
on Friday.
Yeah, we did.
You didn't spend any money for this. Infomark paid for him his overtime to go and do that.
Ah,
So, but he was just asking for an expense of what it would cost to do that. So that's why I put that number in there. The district hasn't been charged anything for that. If you want to know what the actual labor would be for us to go out to send one of our staff to go out to K8, I can tell you what that is. Not a big deal. If you just want
Well-
number wise to say, hey, this is an investment we're giving to you, K8.
Well, wait, just so I'm clear, guys, when we voted on this, and I know either Dave or Tom asked the question, is this going to incur extra costs? Is this going to overburden staff with anything else? And the answer was no, and that was at last meeting. So I want to make sure if we're going to continue to
wasn't
do
there.
this, it was not intention that Infomark is absorbing any extra cost. It was that we had all understood there was still bandwidth within the staff to be able to address these things over the course of a year. I don't think there
Yeah,
was
I
any intention from the board. There certainly wasn't for me that Infomark was going out of pocket to subsidize the board decision to do that.
It's not a big deal. I think it was a staffing decision and timing and logistics wise that Russ wanted him to go do it on the weekend. And number one, we have to do it when the school's closed anyway.
And he was
Yeah.
wanting to get it done.
But also, but also, I would hope too that Infomark marks that as not just a business expense, but kind of helping the school.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have the capacity to do this.
Yeah.
So.
And that's fine, but I think
it-
any
it
other
can be
time.
marked as a donation, something like that. That's,
But my question is, I wasn't here at the last meeting. If this is gonna be something that gets done once or twice a year and it has to be done when school is out, obviously. Are we gonna try and arrange it to where we can do it in the summer? Because if
Yeah.
not, it would have to
Yeah,
be
that's
done.
fine.
I think it has to be.
Okay, because
Yes.
if not, it has to be done on the weekends.
No, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
My initial.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, so the next, and the rest of it is master planning, which I don't have those costs yet. Metal and teak benches.
Oh, I'm sorry, just I don't want to blow right past through master planning because that's going to be a massive one. Dave, for you, does that list look like an exhaustive list of things we would have to do potentially in next fiscal year that we should be considering that we would be pulling out of reserves
For the
in the
master
short term?
planning. For the
Say again?
master plan- For the master planning portion only?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm attaching it to two vendors, the project manager and Dick's Height. And Dick's Height is gonna come in at 500 something thousand, if you really wanna put a number on it. But when all is said and done, but that's just a notional number. And, I think, the project manager's gonna be in six figures also.
Okay. So can I ask you to work with staff to give your best estimates into the budget as to what we should be putting in as plug numbers for FY25 for these 6 line items? And if there's a 7th line item, are we missing something? I just sent these to Angel just as kind of off the cuff thoughts, but I don't really know in the next year what we think we'd be planning on having to do and getting outside help on. I don't know what kind of engineering studies beyond what Mark might do. Obviously, there's a cost with Mark. Do we need another engineering firm to do other engineering things?
So-
Architects? I don't know how far we're going to get down the road in the next 12 months.
Well, now, and here's where I don't know the answer. For those that we know are gonna be financed with a bond. Do we need to even consider them? Do they need to be in a budget?
We need to know what we're going to pull out of
Some of
reserves in
it.
the next year because we're not going to do the
Part of
bond
it,
until
man.
FY26. We're going to have to float that in 25.
That's what we need to get is, I gotta get with Jan and see what all can be included in the bond and what's not gonna be able to. I don't have that answer for you right now.
That's gonna be really important.
There's a wide variety of things you can put in a bond that are
Mhm.
associated with, so.
Leah? Are you on the phone still?
She is not, but I think Liz is.
Liz?
Can
There
you
she
hear me
is.
okay?
Yeah, you may not know the
Hey.
answer to this either, Liz, but so they're building or they want to build a community center. They're gonna do a master plan. Hopefully we can bond it. Do you know what would not be included in the bond? What would not be covered in the bond? You may not know, which is fine, but
I think it would be prudent to see an engineer's report because it really depends on the financing mechanism. I mean, you have a very large capacity to build all sorts of capital improvements.
Yeah.
It's really it's really going to depend on what's within the engineer's report, and once we see that, we can determine the financing mechanisms. and it also, we have a lot of leeway because you have such a healthy balance in your general fund. So it's just really going to depend on what the anticipations of the construction of the infrastructure and the improvements that you intend on utilizing those funds.
Okay,
Angel,
So
perfect.
basically,
Angel, I know,
I need a list.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Angel, I know Jan, last time I talked to her, was going to bond council to figure out what types of things could and could not be in there. So I think she's already
She has.
engaged in that discussion.
Yeah, she has, but I just don't know if she's gotten an answer back, but, so we'll look at it.
But
But I
just
mean,
like with any bond issue, like we just did for Island Village, you've got the engineer who does things for us, but they will also spend time on that, like you guys have already mentioned. Those, if you issue bonds, those can be reimbursed from bond proceeds. But like
Correct.
I said, we start with the engineer's report to find out what else.
I mean, Dave, to your point, we're not going to have it to the penny. This is going to come out of reserves, and we're going to be doing some leaps of faith here that we're actually going to get to a point of a bond. But
Yeah, it would be.
you know, that we can understand an order of magnitude. Hey, from Mark, you know, Mark, if we get the deal with the school district finalized, what's it going to take for the full engineering study for the K-8 lot? You know, as an example, rhetorical question, but we're going to need to start knowing things like that. How far we can actually get next fiscal year.
Well, listen, our dig site gave us a number. It wasn't contractual, but we have an estimate of. Golly, what was it? I don't know. We can use that, and then we'd have to. I could. We'll know shortly here when we get out the RFP for the project manager what that's going to be. Outside of that, I don't know.
Right.
I mean,
I'm
Mark,
hoping over the
sorry,
next few
Mark.
weeks, we'll have some of these numbers filled in.
You know, Mark, you generally know kind of where we're going, what we're looking at as far as the K5 lot, the K8 lot. You know, we've said it out loud, and I'm going to bring it up to Crow at the workshop. If they want to entertain some discussion about the civic corridor, there's going to be costs there as well. You know, so I don't know if you can even get your head around what that might be over the next year as far as engineering land studies that you would have to do. I mean, if it's 160,000 for the K5, if I just multiply that times 3 for the civic corridor and the K8, is that ballpark anywhere close?
Yeah, for full engineering permitting, yep, that would be probably pretty close.
Okay. And would you see any outside engineering of stuff you can't do that would need to come in, environmental studies or other things where you need to bring in a specialist?
Architect, for sure. I think my cost did include several subs, so I think I included, you know, transportation and geotechnical and environmental. So that those would kind of be wrapped under ours. But definitely architectural, which would probably be almost, depending on what you're gonna build, you know, obviously the K8 site is gonna be a pretty substantial building. So that'll be a pretty substantial number. The other satellite sites, maybe not so much.
Okay.
Everybody, I have the dig site proposal up. Their grand total of everything was 262,000.
But that was missing their P and M.
Yeah.
So.
Correct.
That's where you got that number. Yeah. Anything else on this one?
I mean, other than what Mark just spouted out for the engineering, I mean, that's $500,000 right there, guys. If we're talking an additional $250,000 for dig site, now we're up to 700,000 or 800,000. Project managers coming on board. Dave, I mean, you say 6 figures. Are you talking 100,000? Are you talking 900,000?
No, it's, 1 to 200, I would think.
Okay, so now we're up from 8 or so up to right about $1 million. You know, we could, Jan or Angel, I'm sorry, if you can get with Jan and just try to get some estimates from her. She kind of knows the tempo she's going to be working, plus bond counsel. If you can get some estimates from her as to what we'll need legally over the next year.
Yeah.
The only thing I then we're missing is then the architect side. And again, I have no idea order of magnitude what that even looks or sounds like. I mean, we just cleared $1 million right there.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be up there.
See, and I don't have a problem with any of this if we know we're actually moving forward on it.
But that's the thing, you don't. It's
Yep.
kind of like we're here, but we don't have this piece yet. So
Yep.
it's hard to,
I
You know.
I get it, but if we're on track for some of the stuff, if the school district can actually make a decision, then I'm good, right, as we're moving forward on the stuff, but,
So
um,
just, Tom, just so you know, I did get a phone call from the school district facilities officer 2 days ago.
Yep.
They got a letter back from TCC acknowledging that TCC still has their buyback rights on the land that I discussed at the last meeting. I pulled up the language, I sent it to Jan. There's question to me whether or not that sunsetted. There was a little bit of ambiguity in the language. I can have her send that to the rest of the board if you guys want to read through it. I'll ask her to forward it over. But there is a workshop at the school district this coming Tuesday at 3 p.m. It's not intended for this discussion, but the facilities officer is going to recommend to the superintendent he include this in the agenda. If they do, then Jan and I will be attending, because this is probably, they won't be voting on the letter of intent, but they will be. I expect at this meeting, they will decide whether or not they want to move towards a joint use or a straight land sale. I think it's gonna be one of those two. All four of them expressed that they want to move forward on something. It's just which direction. So hopefully by next Tuesday's meeting, our meeting, I will have some more insight.
thank you.
And Sif
All right.
Todd, well, sorry, just since we're on the topic, Sif Todd, I did take Carrie with me a few weeks ago. We met with some of the senior staff over there. Jason, what's his last name? Angel?
Eric.
Herrick, thank you. He was fully on board. Mark, we're pulling, what was it that Jan's pulling? Some of the title searches that's going to take several weeks.
Yeah, the title work on the Top property.
Yeah. So, but again, the staff is generally on board with it. Obviously, it's going to need to go to the board. I've already talked to their vice chair, and we'll try to get with their chairman as well in the next couple of weeks just to get some momentum for it. But we're going in the right direction, notwithstanding all the challenges we have with the gas lines.
Okay. So metal and teak benches, Russ wanted me to put that in there, $8,000. Landscape enhancements, 500,000.
So can I go back to teak benches? Is
Yeah.
that in addition to?
Those are the other benches like on Water Street, golf.
The metal and teak.
Okay.
Mhm.
That would that.
I think we can sand down most of the bars on the benches, then repaint the benches.
Okay.
So that's what we're gonna.
But would this kind of complete the bench?
Yeah.
Okay. And then landscape enhancements.
Landscaping enhancements, 500,000. United is working on final numbers. I want to make very clear. This incorporates large sections of turf that need to be replaced. It also incorporates some entryways in different places that are either completely just dead
Right.
or maybe need to be replaced that have not been replaced in a while. So it really incorporates a lot of stuff. And this will be something by your next one, I'm gonna have all their hard numbers and a list for you all to prioritize. It'll go to you first.
Right.
Like we talked about, it'll go to Tom, he'll look at it all, and then he'll present what he believes to the board.
So a question I have on this, 'cause I
Mhm.
know, spoke to Brad, we're not gonna do this all at once.
Correct.
This is gonna be over many years.
Mhm.
Number one, but number two, and some of this, is this separate from the line item
Yes.
that we have? So this is separate from that.
That is correct. However, you could look at this list, right? And go, okay, well, this and this, we really want to get done. We don't want to use reserves. We want to take it out of that 200,000
Yeah, I want to look
and,
at
and
that.
use that. So there's different ways we can do it, but so I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that 500,000 wasn't just little. These are like large areas of turf that need to be replaced that haven't been replaced in a very long time. And some focal
North-
points
that's North Village.
that,
Still got 95,000 left and I'm
I
waiting
know,
on
I'll work
somebody
with
to.
you on that.
yeah, we talked about that today. He's like, Tom said we're holding off, so I just want to make sure because I got 95,000.
Where we are
Yeah.
before we just start.
Mhm. So I will have hard numbers for that. Brett and his team are putting together kind of a whole list and prioritize. Gonna give it to Tom. Tom will look at it and then he'll present how his recommendation is for the board to move forward with staff's input as well.
Yeah, and then I'm sure at that point, then we're all gonna massage it, right? We're gonna
Yeah,
make sure.
of course.
Some of it's work.
Yep,
My intention is not to get carried away, because we got a lot of stuff on the table,
correct.
so.
And again, if you prioritize, maybe the top three falls within that 200,000, well, then you exhaust that and,
Right.
you know, so there's different ways to look at it, but that's the intent behind that number,
Okay.
just so everyone knows.
Is everyone good with that?
As long as it's got pictures.
Oh, it's gonna have beautiful pictures. We're gonna have
Well,
Brett's children draw
it
them.
won't be out of landscaping, but you'll get pictures.
Hey, just a question, sorry, on the metal antique benches for 8,000. I know we got a lot more done than we had initially planned on for the bench replacements out of this first year, because we got, Rusty did an awesome job getting pricing down. So you're saying there is nothing left to replace? Because we were replacing all of the benches, you're saying now.
I wanna buy one more metal wooden bench that we haven't had, but we had to replace a while back. I think our car hit it. Other than that, I think we can rehab all the metal / teak benches that we have out here.
So maybe.
Bring them back in the shop a couple at a time.
But I think his
Stand them back.
question was,
We don't need to buy.
there's no more teak furniture
No,
out there that needs to be replaced.
That all got
Every bit of it got
Yeah.
replaced,
the solid teak.
Okay.
furniture.
and he kept it under 100 grand.
That was my point. I didn't want to leave 20 of them sitting out there of, well, they're good enough. I want to get them done so we don't have to talk about this again. So awesome.
And by the way,
Didn't I ask this question?
but yeah,
Okay.
yes. And by the way, who was it? The fire
Kids village,
Kids Village just came and purchased
all of it,
for how much?
2,500, 3,000. So
Yeah, I think it was like
it wasn't a whole
3,000.
lot, but it's all gone.
Yeah.
Well, that's the.
They
it's
took
hard-
the rest of it.
Isn't the cost, it's actually
Moving it.
Touch a thing, they came with a whole truck next
Yeah.
day and.
Oh, all the old teak stuff?
Mm-hmm. So they bought it for, I think it was roughly 3,000. And then, we
They're
sold-
taking up our whole dry pond back.
Oh, yeah, it was.
You've seen it.
we
too.
sold some other pieces too. So anyways, it's all gone. It's all been bought and done away with. So
That's pretty
all good there. Anything else regarding this? I think we have our marching orders, things that we need to finalize and kind of firm up. I'll get with Mark and Jan separately on the project stuff with Dave. We'll figure out those numbers. And then now everyone can kind of look and see what you're looking at as far as projects. So maybe start looking at that and going, okay, this is a need, this is a want, this is not gonna happen, this could happen, whatever. Cassandra, I will say, I just want to make sure I let everyone know her input, even though we're gonna have another
Sure.
budget workshop. Angel, I do not have any annual projects I wish to add to the budget discussions. I would like any increases to residents capped at 3% and request that the projects Infomark deem important, such as bringing in an independent company to complete sidewalk repairs, are budgeted for. I'll see you on the 26th. Thank you. So that was it. So she will be here on the 26th. I don't know about the next budget meeting that we have scheduled, if she's gonna
I'm
attend.
looking at this next week.
No, not at the meeting.
Yeah, it looked like there was plenty of other.
Oh,
stuff.
there's way more than we need on that agenda, so,
When's our next?
the
get
next
together?
budget meeting, Brenda, do you have the calendar up? Let me see.
It's the hold on, I don't know, we got a billion meetings. Sorry, we have 3 meetings in May.
14th.
Yep, that's what I thought, 14. Yep.
So that's your next budget workshop.
Joint 28th is board meeting.
That's right.
21st.
Correct.
That's what I said. 14th
So
is budget, 21st is joint, 20th is season board
Yep.
meeting.
remember, keep in mind, that May workshop, that May 14th, we really need to kind of bring it together and make sure we have everything that we can really go line by line, secure what you're wanting, because our deadline will be approving at your May meeting, because unless we can also, if we're not all there yet, we can we can move up your June meeting, because the deadline to approve this budget is June 14th or 15th for Osceola.
15.
June 15th, so
June 15th.
All right, well, if you
Yeah.
get me one that's all filled out, that shows and that changes the percentage as we move things up and down.
yeah, I'll send you the one you have does that.
Yep.
I just hid some stuff, the other extra columns that you need, but the ones, anything you put on 001 tab is gonna affect that assessment summary. So if you start putting in $5 million in that 001 tab, wherever you put it, it's gonna affect that assessment summary tab. If you click on that, it's gonna show you what your assessments now are up to.
Yeah, but, or you showed out that work for the expenses. How about where is the project? So if we wanna do,
Go
$4
back to
million.
001, Brenda. What you can do for all, right there, see that where that maintenance project is?
oh,
What you can do, just so you can see what it affects, put your number in that 25 column, and then over there, you can change the name and put whatever you want.
Yep.
yeah.
So
Alright.
that way it'll give you an idea, okay, I just added $1 million worth of projects. This is what my assessments are gonna look like. So it'll tell you.
Can you send this spreadsheet to us again?
Yes.
Okay.
Brenda, save that, what we have currently on there,
Mhm.
and then just send it out to the board.
I'll make sure, because I unprotected some of these sheets so I could move around in them. I'll make sure that we've protected what
Yeah.
needs to be protected.
Yeah, and again, I'm not gonna use the one I'm gonna send you all, so if you end up breaking it, doing whatever, we're not gonna use that one anyway, but at least you'll be able to look around and play around with it and see what it look like with projects that you add in there.
Okay.
Okay? So we'll get this out to you tonight, and then we'll start working on future numbers, and we'll be looking at some stuff, and then hopefully, once we get some numbers in, as soon as I can get some hard numbers in, I'll resend this out with some definitive numbers that we questioned tonight, and see what we're looking at again, way prior to the 14th. Now that everybody's had a first pass at this and we've looked at it and gone line by line and talked about projects. So we'll get some numbers in and start working through it, because like I said, on the 14th, we really want to get a good handle on it, because the goal would be to either approve it at your May meeting, or if we're not, which is totally fine, we can move your June meeting up or schedule another meeting before June 14th to get that it final, which would give us some extra time if we need it.
Yeah, because we've
And remember,
targeted
we
May
can
and July for your
always-
budget meetings.
we can always come down, but we can't go up. But I will tell you, if we increase assessments even 1%, a letter goes out to all the residents. So my thing, what I always tell everyone is, if you have no intentions on increasing your budget 30, 40, 50%, let's not send a letter out saying that we're increasing it 40%. Let's try and get it to a realistic increase.
Yeah, I don't.
I think we learned our lesson.
Yeah. And that's why, by the way, because this is the first time you all are really looking at this budget, I have not included it in the agenda or posted it online, because I don't want that misconception to come out, because we really haven't agreed on anything yet.
No, there's a lot of discussions.
Yeah,
about that.
so-
These are, there's a lot of this, I don't
That's,
want to take them in time, but because there's a lot of discussion on how much everything's gonna cost and strategy behind that cost.
Mhm.
Of how long, when you're gonna go ahead and do that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
yeah, so that's why I haven't posted it. It's not hiding anything, no secrets, nothing. It's just, I don't want inaccurate information to be out there when you all haven't really had an opportunity to look at it and go, okay, this is kind of what we're looking at. So once we get to that point, obviously it'll be posted, it'll be in an agenda and everybody will be able to see that prior to you approving it. I'm trying to think of anything else. So we're gonna get this out to you tonight, which is what we worked on tonight. I'll get some numbers firmed up, which we're already in the middle of it. So it's just a matter of a couple of days of getting some harder numbers. The biggest thing that I need that I'm waiting on and I'm really dependent on other people for is the whole community management piece. That's because I've got to get input from Mark, Jan, and different entities to be able to do that community management piece. Or whatever it's called, project, community management, master plan. Okay.
Thank you.
What did you tell me, Dave? Sue me, I violated
Yeah.
about
GoGov.
the GoGov. He goes, GoGov. He goes, it's just much easier. Go ahead and find me now. So there you go. Find me now because I didn't call it is it master planning? Is that what we're calling it? Okay.
Send you the note now.
Yeah, please. Remember, master planning. I know, he's tough.
I just didn't understand. I just wanted to understand.
Yeah.
Just asking questions.
After 8 o'clock, you're usually confused.
Usually in bed by now.
Oh, look who's talking.
All right, anything else with this before we wrap it up?
My Dodger fan, he'll see till 2. That's true, it's true.
Thanks, Liz, Leah, for attending. I appreciate it.
They both actually had to jump off, so I'll tell them.
Okay. All right, great. Well, all right, anything else?
I think we're good.
All right,
All
perfect.
right, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Greg.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
Good
you.
meeting, Tom. Good job.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I'll let you talk.